Hey, boozers and shakers, we are coming at you live. We're so excited for a fall tour. It'll be the final installment of our current Here for the Booze tour.
The final, I think, 10 shows, something like that. But it's the final countdown. And we're very excited. But if you want a chance at ever seeing Here for the Booze one last time, this is it, folks, before we do our next big tour. So hopefully you can make it to the next few cities. If you want to, you can check out our tickets at andthat'swhywedrink.com/live.
We can't wait to see you there. Some shows are already sold out, so get on it quick. Bye. The floor is yours.
Oh, are you on a time crunch?
No, today's about you. It's your health and your well-being. If I were on a time crunch, I would not invite you open-ended to speak on a platform.
Okay, that's fair. Well, you go, the floor is yours, and I hear, get her done.
Yeah, maybe that too. We'll sprinkle a little of that in, but no. I want to hear how you're doing, Em.
Oh, wow.
I don't want you to stress you out. So if you're like, I don't want to talk about this.
I did think before we started recording, I was like, am I going to talk about my heart again? Like, people are so fucking over this. But yeah.
No, we want good news from the heart circuit, you know?
As
I told you, my neighbor Anne is very concerned with your cardiac health.
Tell Anne I say hey. Or I'll do it for you right now. Hey, girl. So I got the surgery, and they say, I mean, they can't give me a 100%, but they say in the success range. They think I'm in the success range. So, and not to be like just like a negative Nelly, but that does mean that in the future it could literally grow back, which is terrifying. Mm-hmm. Or that they could have missed a part, and that part can give me an episode. So I will forever live in a constant state of anxiety that they didn't catch all of it.
I feel like
they got a lot of it.
As a chronic disease sufferer, you think that you will always live with that fear. You will not always live with that fear. I think the people who listen who have been in the trenches of something like your heart issue or something similar get that feeling of like, this is just going to be the forefront of my mind for the rest of my life. Yeah. Even when things are looking good, it weirdly just kind of goes, at least backstage, you know?
Well, except when I'm actually backstage.
It's like an inverse. Okay, you're not backstage; it's backstage. You are backstage, and ta-da! I give it the floor, and we have to deal with it. Okay.
Yeah. So, well,
I didn't even make that. I'm sorry to use the BS word in front of you.
When you're on stage in front of 1,000 people, it's not even there.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's thank you. I can't wait for the day where that's not the case. But so they think it's fine. They had me stay overnight in the hospital, which I was not expecting, and then they told me like 5 minutes before they put me under. And
I was getting updates from Eva, and I was like, wait, why? Why does Em have to stay the night? And Eva had already told me, like, don't worry, it's nothing.
Apparently, bad. Apparently my doctor's like super meticulous, I guess, and
like conservative with that.
Yeah, like whether or not you need to stay, they make you stay. Mm-hmm. Which I appreciate, and
until you get that hospital bill.
Honestly, I don't care. Because I ended up.
Well, that's a plus.
Yeah, I ended up actually like probably needing to stay because I did have like a bunch of pain, and I mean it was literal heartburn. So like they like fried my. Apparently, the same part of my heart they burned it for 2 hours. And they like just kept going. Mm-hmm. My anxiety. So I have this fun little trifecta where I'm trying to figure out my heart stuff. I'm trying to figure out my blood pressure stuff. And I'm trying to figure out my like top tier anxiety, which has just gotten so horrible. I don't know why lately. And I don't know which is causing the other two to spike, but my big fear was always like my anxiety would either make my blood pressure spike or vice versa. And then it would cause an SVT episode. So as I was going into the hospital that morning to get my surgery, they said, oh, don't take any like as needed medication or as needed like situational medication. So I was on no anti-anxieties. I was on no propranolol. I was just gearing to go. And I had the night before had a whole smorgasbord with Allison where we ate the worst food for my heart and my anxiety. Well, I wanted my heart to be on its worst behavior to like really.
Okay. I'm coming back around. I get it.
So thank you to everyone who submitted your suggestions for like the most caffeinated, spicy, greasy, carby foods.
Oh, I didn't see this request. Damn, I missed one.
Well, about 100 people sent in everything. And then I ordered something from Postmates, from Uber Eats, from DoorDash, and from Instacart.
Whoa.
And it was I ate until I couldn't eat anymore. And probably one of the best decisions I made was like eat the most triggering things for my heart. But then I had to wait 2 hours before my surgery started the next day. And I had to just breathe through this like all those chemicals in my body.
Yeah, like hoping it'll be worth it.
Yeah, well, I was like, can you imagine if I have an SVT episode before they put me under?
Before. Yeah. Oh, no. Oh.
And so all my doctors were very lovely. I made it very clear to them. I was like, I hear a lot of people have to get a second ablation. I ideally would like you to do your absolute best work you've ever done today on me. I need you to absolutely fry this thing out of me. And when I'm under, if you think, should I go a little further? Yes, you should. I was like, whatever you need to do, get it out.
You hear me from the great beyond shouting through the void. Go, burn it 2 hours more.
Well, so one of my like bigger triggers is any impact, like any standing up too quickly, any sitting too quickly, any jumping or
like when Eva and I told you to jump into the pool recently and you were like, what are you trying to do, kill me? And we were like,
I was like, I know that would be it.
Oops.
And so one of the things that they needed me to do was like kind of hoist myself from the gurney onto like the actual operating table. And I was like,
that's the worst.
I was like, I got to tell you right now, I'm going to do it. But the second I do it, SVT is going to kick in very quickly. So I need to be under in the next 10 seconds. And honestly, they listened. And apparently the second I went under, I had an attack.
Dun, dun, dun. The show wow, what a beautifully like synchronized show you put on there.
I know. And the after the surgery, when the doctor came to check on me in the recovery room, he was like, yeah, we saw you weren't kidding though. You have a really, really, really bad version of this. And I went, yeah, dude, I know.
Well, honestly, what a relief to finally have somebody be like, whoa, you're real sick.
He seemed very excited for how bad it was and the fact that he caught it. But what I was telling Allison is it was so weird having this whole situation, like all these doctors coming at me, and I know this is so stupid, but everyone just like bear with me because it was like a reality that I was not prepared for, was that all of the doctors were our age. Like, and like, it was so, because in my mind, I think of doctors as like old, wise men who have many years before me and all this experience. And all these people, like, I know they go home and just watch TikTok. And like, it was just so weird that like everyone was late 20s to early 30s. And they like asked me what type of music I wanted to listen to while I was under this, when I was under. And I told them I wanted to listen to like lo-fi music. And at least two of them went, wow, this stuff's so vibey. And I was like, I'm going to need you to say words other than vibey as you hold a scalpel, or like I need
a scalpel. Oh God.
And then there was one doctor who I was trying to like get everyone's name. And he was like, oh, you can just call me Luke. And I was like, no,
you've come too far to be called by your first name.
Yeah. Anyway, so it was just weird to have everyone operating on me who like was in high school when I was in high school. It was just not what I was expecting for the moment. But anyway, I asked all the nurses once I got to the recovery room, like what like the hospital tea is. I was like, I want to know who's sleeping with everyone.
Oh God.
I was like, I'm here for a while, so I should probably know this. Mm-hmm. And they all said, actually, we like at least 3 people said we actually all transferred to this hospital they separately said this. They transferred to this hospital because it's like the only hospital in town that doesn't have gossip. And they were like, it's like
this
their
is not
favorite hospital.
You went to the wrong hospital, Em.
I know.
I'm so sorry.
They did all say, trust me, if we had some, I'd be the first to tell you. But the one that I went to before this, they might as well have written Grey's Anatomy about it.
And I was like,
well, that one you should fill me in on because I'm here overnight and I'm going to be stuck with you for like the next 8 hours.
You just eat your Jell-O while they tell you all the scandals.
I was like, if you were 60 like I expected, I wouldn't be asking this. But since we're homies now, and you keep stabbing me with stuff in the arm, I'm going to need you to tell me all the dirt.
Pay up.
Yeah, exactly. So there was one nurse named Steve who is now apparently one of the biggest fans that we'll ever have.
Steve?
Nurse Steve.
Hi, Nurse Steve.
We got real chummy.
Thanks for doing what you do.
He was talking about like the heart healthy foods I need to be eating. And then somehow in that conversation we derailed and he started showing me videos on his phone of his favorite taco place and how they like flip them into each other's hands. It was he was a fun guy. So anyway, my heart for all intents and purposes is okay, but I will say between my blood pressure and my anxiety, my stage fright is no better than it was.
Yeah, I will say I was so pleased when your procedure went well and that you came out okay and they said it was like 95% whatever success. Like I was so relieved and then we were like, how are you? And you're like, worse than ever. And I was like, okay. I need to reroute my thinking here, my strategy.
Well, I do. So one of the things that I have told Christine and also cried to Christine about is that I now have a really intense agoraphobia, which it's not that I never thought it wasn't real or wasn't valid. I just had no understanding of it when people would tell me they experienced that. Mm-hmm. And I have always understood like, oh, I have anxiety, but I've never actually felt true constant anxiety and panic attacks for no reason. And so I now have that ever since the ambulance. Brad.
I know Brad. We're on Steve talk. I was gonna say Steve talk. We're on Nurse Steve talk now. So stay here.
So now I've had like Allison and I have been trying to do like daily exercises where like I get in the car and like try not to cry. It's very, very bad. And so now the idea of traveling for the shows, it's like not just the nerves anymore of being on stage. It's like I just developed this huge panic of like being anywhere where an ambulance wasn't accessible because I was afraid that I would have to need an ambulance again and I wouldn't be able to get one. And so now I'm trying, we've been looking at therapists and everything for this. And like, I'm actively trying to get rid of this nightmare. But, I've got like all these other issues now where like my body hasn't caught up yet to the logic of like, oh, well, your SVT isn't coming back. You don't have to worry about this kind of stuff. And so, it really sucks. Cause I just think about like, oh, Allison and I had all these plans for Halloween events. And now I'm like, I know I could do it, but my body refuses to believe it. Like just going to Walmart gives me a full blown panic attack. So anyway, now I'm going to a therapist for not just general anxiety, but panic disorders. So if anyone wants to follow me along on that mental journey, the heart is healed, but the brain is not. So
whoa, that's deep.
Yeah. So one day I will be tip top, but so far my health in my 30s is just a downward spiral.
It's only been a few days since your procedure. I feel like as time goes on, I feel like with your stuff, like you said, it's like a trifecta and I feel like you were able to turn the volume down on one of them.
Exactly.
On your heart.
So now I just have to figure out these two.
Yeah, let's hope it like slowly brings the other two down. And
it does help. Like I don't want to discourage you from trying to encourage me. Like it does make me feel better that I can look to someone who has had a chronic illness for a long time and be able to say like, oh, it's not always this bad. I'm brand new to this shit. And I don't know how you do it.
I used to be in a position where it was like, oh, I need to know where every possible bathroom is at every moment. And I can't drive long distances at a certain time of day. And I can't eat and then drive, whatever. And so there was like this constant it's not as scary as like an ambulance, obviously, but it's like this underlying like, oh, well, I need to be hyper aware at all moments that this could go wrong.
It's so tiring. My brain is so tired all the time because when we've been doing our little exercises, like yesterday, we went to FedEx. I didn't even have to get out of the car, but just sitting in the car waiting for Allison to come back from FedEx. I was looking at every like park bench or anything I could be upside down on in a moment. So I understand that. I don't know. How long did it take you to not have that?
There's something very resilient and I think plastic about the human mind where after a certain amount of time, our bodies are like, anyway, back to normal, I think, I
can't wait.
Like giving birth, for example, is like such a traumatic thing on your body and can be traumatic. But people just do it and they're like, I'll never do this again. And guess what? 2 years later, they're like, oh, wasn't that wonderful? Let's do it again. So, I think the human body does what it needs to survive. And once it realizes it's not in constant danger, hopefully your mind can like turn the volume down a little bit.
Well, thank you. I will keep everyone updated when I find a therapist I like. I'm in the stage right now where I'm like in denial that talk therapy will help, which is so stupid because I'm such an advocate for therapy. But in my mind, like I'm already telling myself the logic and it's not clicking.
But that's why they have their own, like if you do, I almost said CBD training. That's not what it's called.
The CBT, I think it's CBT.
CBD is also helpful.
I'm looking into right now.
CBT is like more than talk therapy because that's more just like actually changing the way you think about things. So hopefully they can kind of talk you through that. It helped me a lot on, in other ways.
Well, anyway, if something were to go awry during our live shows, I want everyone to know I'm so sorry. I'm doing everything I can to be very brave. So
you're gonna do great,
and Christine's gonna do great too. I feel like you never even get credit for how amazing you are on stage.
I just try to step out of the way to make sure you're not,
At least I won't. In theory, there's a much larger chance now that I won't need an ambulance when I go on stage. So that's at least one very good plus of all this happening. And everyone's been sending me lovely treats. You sent me 2 whole boxes of chocolate covered strawberries with little eyes on them.
They were ladybugs.
That's what I said. We couldn't figure it out because they looked a little funky. But I said, I'm pretty sure they're ladybugs.
I would not have bought them if they didn't look funky.
Thank you.
And not in a funky, like moldy way. Funky in like a funky ladybug.
The stripes on them were vague. And so I was like, I think these are ladybugs. And I think Allison thought they were strawberries painted to look like strawberries. And I was like,
wait, what?
That can't be right. Like I honestly don't know what I mean.
Wow, my mind just tripped and fell on its face. I'm so confused by that sentence.
You gave me a puzzle, I guess, with us trying to figure it out. I was
not intending to make you work harder. I just wanted to, put eyeballs on your chocolate covered fruit.
Thank you. And then Eva surprised me. She decorated the whole troll hole when I was in the hospital. So there's
I got a video of that happening as it was
very
happening.
Lovely. Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. We were in cahoots there. Well, not really. I didn't do anything physically. I just contributed from afar.
Your name is on the card, so you were involved.
That's right. I was.
Anyway, Christine, that you said I could have the floor, and the floor I had. So, why do you drink and take exactly?
There's no floor left. We don't want to
take 18 minutes. Like
I'm not taking 18 minutes because everyone's already shutting it off. No, I just have one big announcement. As you can tell, I'm wearing a Great Pumpkin shirt because fall is right around the corner. It is September. We are drinking pumpkin coffee. We are living our wildest autumnal dreams, mostly indoors because it's 86 degrees out, but fall is coming.
We're in the middle of this heat nonsense. It's been like 105 here like every day. It's bananas.
And that's why it's more important than ever to really commit inside, physically inside the building. I mean, not physically inside yourself, but that too. Commit to fall and all the wonders that it will bring right around the corner. So
I love when you say autumnal. I don't know
what. It's one of my favorite words.
What's the other word you say all the time that gets me fucking going? Hold on. What it? Say it.
Is it?
I must push. bouche.
No, that one's you. I thought amuse bouche. I thought you said that.
No, I never say it.
I thought that was your thing. Okay. Clearly, no. I've just combined the two of us in my head for far too long because I can't tell the difference anymore. But
there are certain words you say where I'm like, oh, Christina's back at it. And
I think there's one more French one, which is so stupid.
Double
entendre. Yeah. That's the one where I'm like, oh, God, I'm such a douchebag when I say that. Anyway.
I love it.
Fall is here almost, and we are celebrating it. We are willing it to come closer. So cheers to fall, y'all.
Fall, y'all. And do you have any fall plans?
Leona's birthday.
Okay. Do you
Halloween.
Have any
New Orleans. Party time.
Party time.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe you think of a Halloween costume eventually. I don't know.
I'm gonna brainstorm it.
I need to brainstorm mine too.
Yeah, we'll work on it.
Maybe I'll be the Hercene shifter. that would not be hard. One classy, trashy headband.
You would borrow this sweatshirt and you're good to go.
Okay, let me find my silly little notes.
That'd be a good start.
Here they are. Okay. So we've been on a cryptid kick, and this is another cryptid. I am not going to say what I was going to say, and people can just find out next week.
Oh, okay.
But
another cryptid.
We're on a cryptid kick, and I think next week might be the final cryptid for a little bit, and I'll get back into the ghosties. But just wanted to throw one your way, see how it feels, because it is in Ohio.
Oh.
And it's between Dayton and Cincinnati.
Well, that's right by me.
There it is. And it's not the Hercene shifter this time.
That's hard to believe, but okay, I'm listening.
Although I do think you and the Loveland Frogman and then this fella should all have a little group chat or something.
Okay, well, Lunar Lemon, my Leona cryptid, was born literally halfway from Cincinnati to Dayton, was born right there. So
was it in Crosswick?
No, I don't even know what that is.
Okay.
It was in Liberty Township.
Okay. I was like, wow, you have an actual little monster.
That would be cool.
Okay. This is the story of the Crosswick monster. Or
I've never heard of it.
The Crosswick Snake.
Ooh.
I personally went with monster. It felt scarier. Actually, snakes are scarier.
No way. Monster. Boo. Snake is frightening.
I really do feel bad for the people out there who are fans of snakes. And, because someone needs to love snakes, and I'm glad it's you.
We do this PSA like at least 3 times a year. It's like snake lovers. Well, I don't have a problem with snakes. I think they're very cool. I
would
don't
you
necessarily,
hold one?
If the right trainer were involved, I don't think I'd just pick one up off the ground. But if somebody said, "Hey, here, what do you want to try?" I think I would probably panic a lot, and I think I probably wouldn't really enjoy myself. But I would do it. But I also I don't wish harm to snakes. You know, I'm just sort of like, you do you over there.
Does that make nice sense for you? That's good.
You do wish them harm.
I don't know if I wish them harm, but I certainly wish them to not ever be near me.
Gone. Yeah. Okay,
I wish them disappearing.
Okay.
And I hope they disappear to one happy little snake land where all the snake lovers can visit them.
What I do hope is that they, like spiders, don't disappear while you're trying to track them down in your home. Because when that happens, then you're in big trouble.
That is a silly thing you said.
Night.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think I just put them right. I put them exactly where spiders are, and I put those exactly where rats are. I also feel bad for the rat people because I know
them. That I would hold in a heartbeat, and probably I would own and
it's
love.
the tail. It's the tail and nothing else, because I don't. I obviously, me, the zoologist, when it comes to rats, in my mind,
zoologist who hates a bunch of animals and wants them all to disappear. Yeah, we all believe it.
In my mind, if it weren't for the tail, I cannot tolerate the tail. I cannot do it.
What about the beady little eyes, though?
Okay, here's the thing.
You don't like that either. Little teeth.
If it weren't for the tail, there's no difference between a rat and like a hamster and a gerbil and a hedgehog.
I'm Googling cute rat.
Good luck.
Thank you.
You better just type in tailless rat.
I will say, not a single one shows the tail.
You want to know why? Because they know that's their worst flaw.
Yeah, it's literally, I'm looking through just dozens, and there's not one tail. Oh, there's one. Ooh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, but and it's like one thing, like looking at it already freaks me out, but to feel one like hit me if I were touching the rat, like I can't even begin to describe the physical revulsion. Like
oh no.
Look, it's the same thing with snake people. If you're a rat person, I'm so happy for you, and I hope you and your rat have the best friendship there ever was. But like, I can't. It freaks me out. I don't know what it is. I think maybe it's because it's a tail without fur. Like it doesn't look. It's not 100% a furry creature, and therefore I don't want to cuddle it or something. I don't know what's wrong with me. Well, I'm aware there's a problem with me. To be clear,
sending you a picture.
Like before people come at me, like I'm on your side. I want to not be like this, but I'm also telling you. See, that is a cute picture, but again, no tail. So
I wouldn't. A teacup though, which is pretty darn cute.
Honestly, if you sent me a picture of a rat not showing its tail, a gerbil, a hamster, a little mouse, I wouldn't know the difference. And I would think they're all lovely. But the second you pull all 4 of them up and one of them's got a tail, I judge one. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, that just goes to show Emma's shallow. So here's the thing.
I'll take it.
I wanted to say is that when I sent you that photo, I scrolled back by accident and I found the picture of the strawberry ladybugs. And I now understand what Allison meant because the ladybugs have dots.
Uh-huh.
And so the dots look like somebody was trying to like put dots on a strawberry because they were putting dots on a strawberry.
Well, because also only the tip of it was brown. And so I was like, oh, it's a chocolate covered strawberry, but only the top of it's supposed to look chocolate covered and the rest is supposed to be strawberry colored.
Yeah,
like the ladybug color. Yeah. But also red is the color of a strawberry. And I was like, is it supposed to be a strawberry?
Is also the color of a strawberry.
I was like, is it a strawberry painted on top of a strawberry?
I'm going to send this photo. I'm going to send this photo to Megan. And I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I want to be clear. I just find this like weirdly fascinating what everybody kind of, how you all process this. And I hadn't put this much thought into it. So I would like to share this with Gio's trio and then with Megan, our lovely social media gal, to see what other people think, because I'm genuinely curious, because I can see why you'd be like, oh, it's a strawberry with eyes.
Yeah, it's like
dots.
But it's like, and I thought that was like redundant to be like, oh, let's just like, why would you waste the time to paint a strawberry on top of a strawberry? It already looks like a strawberry.
And famously, strawberries are red too, as you mentioned earlier. So I do understand the confusion. So I don't.
If anyone's out there who has painted a ladybug to look like a ladybug, just let me know, because I'd love to.
Oh, a ladybug to look like a ladybug.
And then we compare that to the strawberry that looks like a strawberry.
I think maybe let's not, I don't want to see a picture of whoever sick person is decorating ladybugs.
It does look like strawberries painted on top of strawberries.
I'm understanding, because when you said it earlier, I felt my brain break a little bit and I didn't really get it. But now looking at the dots, I'm like, oh, I see, because there's dots. Yeah, I get it. I do, Allison, get it. So if you're listening to this, I didn't mean to, diss your thought process.
No matter what it is, they're all gone now, by the way.
Oh, okay, good. That's what matters. I'm glad you took a photo before they went away.
That picture was taken before about one of those boxes was empty. So, all right. Anyway, back to the Crosswick Snake.
Yeah, sure.
The end. That's how far we have tangented.
Really far into your notes.
The title. Okay, so this is in Crosswick, Ohio, and as you said earlier, I've never heard of that. Mm-mm. Well, that's because Crosswick, Ohio is a paper town, which I didn't know this was a term for this, but it's in an unincorporated community, which I never knew it was called a paper town, but I guess it's kind of like one of those dialect words where like some places call it something else. And it's a paper town because you can only see it on a map, but like when you go in there, like it's technically part of different counties or different towns.
Oh, okay.
Which is what Fredericksburg is, by the way. It's an unincorporated city.
It's paper town.
It's a paper town. Yeah, because our mailing address, please don't snail
our
mail.
Mailing address is as follows.
Please don't snail mail my mom.
Please don't snake mail her either, because I'm pretty sure she feels the same way you do about snakes, if not worse.
Probably worse. I respect snakes from a distance. I think
everybody listening right now is like, I'm going to scream if you guys go on another snake tangent.
Okay. But Fredericksburg, our mailing address is Fredericksburg, but technically we're in Massaponax district, but we're also in Spotsylvania County. Like it's a weird thing where I could say I'm from any of those 3 places and I'm technically right.
And somebody gets it.
And someone gets it. So I guess that's what Crosswick, Ohio is, because it's between Dayton and Cincy. So also, as a non-local, am I allowed to say Cincy?
Absolutely. We love it. We love to see it.
Trying to sound really cool.
We love to make it sound like it's cool. So if there's anything you can do to kind of up our game.
Oh, cool. So Crosswick is between the coolest city ever, Cincy, and also Dayton.
All right. Now you're like overplaying it a little bit. I feel like we want it an understated cool.
Right. Okay. Puff of a cigarette. So anyway, Crosswick is from Cincy.
That's what it was. Thank you.
Okay.
Ding ding.
Also, as a paper town or as an unincorporated community, that means that they have no local government. There's no real official census info. It's basically rural, and to locals, it's a very legitimate area that like they call it that town name, but nobody else would know what they're talking about.
Okay, got it.
Like one road goes through the town, and that's right. About it.
Very Ohio.
So in the late 1800s, locals of Crosswick, they started noticing that there were some unidentifiable tracks on the one road in their town.
Oh, no.
And in the woods near their area. And so they were like, what could this be? And these tracks apparently lasted for years and nobody did a single thing about it.
Like they kept appearing, you mean?
Kept appearing for years.
Oh, no.
And I think everyone was like, that's not my business. And so
it's the first time that's ever happened in a small town, but yeah, I guess.
Yeah, they were, I guess it wasn't important enough to them to figure it out, or they were just like, I'd rather not know what weird, creepy animal walks up and down this road.
Fully, yeah.
And so they lasted years, but people ignored them. But as of May 1882, there were these 2 teenage boys, or preteen boys, I guess. There's 13-year-old Ed and 11-year-old Joe. And I don't know if you consider that a tween, maybe?
I would say tween or kid. 11's more kiddish, I would say. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know where the line is for a tween, a preteen, a teen.
I can't tell anymore. I'm too old. It's all blurred, you know?
I guess if you're, like, Leona's technically a preteen.
Yeah, sure.
She's certainly pre-teenage years.
You are correct on that front, yes.
Oh, God, what's it like to be 30 and have a preteen? That's crazy. So, fellow preteens, 13-year-old Ed and 11-year-old Joe, they went fishing at the creek near the edge of town, and it's called Satterthwaite's Run. Does that sound familiar to you?
Absolutely not.
Cool. I'm starting to believe all this is fake.
Probably.
They're at Satterthwaite's Run, and they hear this strange rustling in the bushes, and they find when they get nosy, they start looking around where they shouldn't have, and in the brush they find this strange unknown 30-foot reptile.
What?
Black and white, scaly, like a snake. And they basically said it looked like a snake with legs. So imagine my worst nightmare. It's a 30-foot snake with legs.
Now you just add a rat tail to that, and I don't know how you would add a tail to what is essentially a large tail itself, which is the snake. I think
that's why I don't like snakes. They just look like the tail.
Wait, there's a big Venn diagram happening of tails over tails.
Like a gerbil plus a snake equals a rat, as far as I'm concerned.
Gosh, you're right. So like on the scale, it's like gerbil, rat, plus and then snake's down here. Yeah. Okay, I get it.
So, and one of my issues with snakes, by the way, is that like they don't have legs. I am aware that they
don't know where they're going.
I don't know where they're going.
You've said that, honestly, and it honestly makes a lot of sense to me. It's like unexpected, you know.
I don't know how they do it either. I'm aware they have muscles. It doesn't,
and also like M doesn't want to learn. Like don't send like don't send like a a PowerPoint, because M's not going to watch that. I don't want you to waste your energy.
Knowing might make it worse. It's the same. It's the same reason I hate fish. Like I don't know where you're going, and neither of them, as far as I'm concerned, blink. Like they've got like those little fake translucent lids.
Ew.
But like other than that, like. You're always staring and you're always moving, and why? So, okay. 30-foot snake with legs. So the boys see it, and smart as they can be, take off, as I would as well.
Oh, genius.
And this monster shoots out of the brush and chases them. Immediately, I would collapse, and I think I would just die on the spot.
Immediately, these children made up this story, but I'm going to go with it.
This 30-foot snake with legs chased them.
I like how that's that it took me this far to go, I don't know about that. It seems unlikely.
You're still on the word paper town, so
explain yourself.
So while the monster was chasing them, this is when they noticed that the head alone was over a foot long.
Oh, that's a nice time to notice that.
They just measured it on the run, or so before they knew it, one of the little boys, Joe, was grabbed by the monster with its. Because when I said it had legs, I didn't mean just hind legs. It has 4 legs.
Oh no, like so 4 FORE, not FOUR. It does have 4, like the number.
It's a snake that runs like a cheetah.
Okay, here's what I wanted to say. When you said it's a snake with legs, I pictured this caterpillar with all of these legs, and I pictured a snake with like many feet. And I did picture them wearing sneakers, but that was on me. You didn't insinuate that.
At this point, anything's possible.
Anything's possible. Okay, so it has
through
4...
God, all things are possible.
Through Satan, it sounds like. So it's FOUR, 4 legs, but also it has 4 not only hind, but 4 legs. Okay.
Oh, I see what's happening now. Yes,
that's
it has
where I got confused.
Forearms. Yeah.
Okay, forearms as well.
Yes, it has animal arms.
Okay.
And so all 4 of them are, let's say, galloping at this point towards these boys with a foot-long head.
Okay.
And then, by the way, these, just to throw another 4 number confusion at you, their forearms are 4 feet long each.
God. Okay. That's really long. 4 feet. So this thing is like as tall as a person, like 5 feet off the ground.
It's certainly not. It's big. Yeah, it's super big.
All right.
So imagine this thing's running at you with all of its 4 foot long legs, and then gets up on 2 of those hind legs, and with the other ones comes at you and grabs you.
Sure.
And according to what is now my favorite publication, the Cincinnati Enquirer.
The Cincinnati Enquirer?
Yeah.
That's been your favorite publication when they featured that big article about me.
You're right. Wait, are they the ones who actually put an article out about you?
Yeah, front page, baby.
Okay. Well, front page, the Cincinnati Enquirer also talked about this monster.
Okay, well.
As if it were hard facts, and then said that this massive snake grabbed Joe in a slimy embrace. So what did your article say?
It sounds weirdly exactly similar to that one that you're reading. I don't know. They must have mixed up the print,
Oh, okay. Well, request to you. Eventually, I'd like you to cover something from the Freelance Star, Fredericksburg's biggest publication to date.
Too, Em.
They did cover us, but no, not something about us. I want you to cover something from the Freelance Star eventually.
Oh, I see, because you're covering something. I see what you're saying. Okay, I will.
You can cover them talking about me on the front page. That's fine.
Okay, sure. That's a crime story if I ever heard one.
It's a crime to have spent their time doing that, certainly.
Yeah.
So, okay, this thing is now... By the way, all of the information that is any newspaper clipping, the Cincy Enquirer.
Yeah, we were on it. Don't worry.
Okay.
We're always on it.
While grabbing Joe with its arms, the monster gets on its hind legs and runs off. So now it can also hold an 11-year-old boy.
Good.
Runs off towards an old sycamore tree.
Oh, that's cute.
With Joe in his hands, I assume like a little baby.
Yeah.
And according to the locals, this tree was very, very old, very hollow, and may have had a hole in it that allegedly leads to the monster's lair.
Sure, that makes sense.
So Ed, the 13-year-old, is watching Joe get dragged to this tree.
I would say he's not getting dragged. He's getting carefully cradled.
Cradled.
I just want to be clear about the,
in a slimy embrace.
Yeah, sure, exactly.
So Ed sees this happening and screams loud enough for others to hear. So these 3 men come running to help. These 3 men were Reverend Jacob Horn, George Peterson, and Alan Jordan. Okay. And by the time they got there, they also saw the monster, and it had Joe in its mouth.
Oh, no.
And the monster was trying to force Joe into the tree hole with its mouth.
It's like, come with me.
I think it was like one of those things where like, I feel like I see these TikToks all the time where like a dog's trying to drag something through a gate, but it's too long.
I was just thinking, or like when cats like try to keep having to drag their kittens back into their little like nest, like, you know what I mean?
I feel like this monster was trying to drag like Joe through the hole, but the tree was too small, so he was like awkwardly trying to force him in.
Yeah.
And I say that almost lightheartedly because I feel like the Cincinnati Enquirer was not putting out its best work during this.
Oh, well, speak for yourself.
Trying to force Joe into the tree hole, but it sees the 3 men running after it, and here's the problem though. It gets scared, so it clenches its jaw and bites down on Joe then drops him, and the thing runs off into the tree by itself.
Okay. Slithers. No runs. You're right. He's got feet.
Either at this point, if he gets on his back, he can slither wherever he wants.
That's true.
So the men bring Joe home, where apparently he was reported as half dead.
Oh.
Dramatic. Apparently he was just injured.
Okay.
And there's a doctor named Dr. Lukens who comes to check on Joe. Apparently Joe had, during this attack, he had convulsed a few times and was having seizures throughout the attack.
Okay, well, you say dramatic. I mean, sounds like he has reason to be dramatic.
Yeah, that one's bad. Apparently he was pretty banged up, and that night he obviously had frequent nightmares. So now the news has spread across town that there's a 30-foot lizard with legs eating children.
Yeah, that's pretty big news.
That would get a fire lit under me. I'd go, uh-oh, time to move. And the 3 men that I mentioned earlier that saved Joe, they organized 60 men to go find this thing and hunt it down once and for all.
Okay.
So they go to the same sycamore tree, but they bring whatever sharp objects they can with them and basically use them as axes to start chopping down this tree.
Okay.
They start chopping it down, but shortly after, the monster just pops right out of the tree. Oh. He goes, yoo-hoo, I'm here.
Yoo-hoo. He's like the Lorax.
You were knocking, so here I come.
May I offer you a thneed? Speaking of words that you love when I say.
I feel like from amuse-bouche to thneed, there's a big gap.
There's no Venn diagram, just 2 circles really far away.
It's like the opposite of an amuse-bouche is the word thneed. Okay, so so he pops out. He goes, hello, I'm a thneed, apparently.
Yeah.
And this is the newspaper description of the creature, according to these 60 men. It was a 30 to 40 foot long, 16 inches in diameter, and had legs 4 inches long and covered with scales, the same as the body.
4 inches now, not 4 feet.
Oh, sorry, 4 feet. I read my little quotations wrong.
I'm picturing 16 feet and then 4 these tiny little legs. I was like, wait.
It's like a half a borrower. No, okay, so now these like grown men are confirming, like, no, this thing is 30 feet long.
Oh, shit.
16 inches in diameter, 4 feet long, 4 legs. And its feet are a feet long. Its feet are a foot long. Okay. But they're shaped like this feels like that time that we had the dictionary that was all alliterations.
Yes, it's what it reminds me of. I'm like
4 foot long forearms and a foot long feet. Like, what?
You should go check if this is in that dictionary because I bet they have all sorts of things to say about that.
If it is, I don't even want to know if I want to know about that because then I'd have to read a whole passage.
We already have a headache. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Apparently, the feet are also shaped like a lizard's. They are black and white with large yellow spots. The head is about 16 inches wide with a long black forked tongue, and the mouth inside is deep red. The hind legs appear to be used to give it an erect position, and its propelling power is in its tail.
Ugh, like a kangaroo?
Sure.
I don't know. That doesn't sound right.
Is that what they do?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, let's pretend. All of a sudden, I like tails. So the monster pops out of the tree, looks at them, gets on its hind legs, I guess to be like the alpha in the group. And he apparently stands on his hind legs at 14 feet tall, which doesn't make sense to me because if it's 30 feet long and then goes erect, shouldn't it be 30 feet tall?
No, because if it has a tail, then it like has its tail back, you know?
You're right. Okay, so it's 14 feet tall when standing, which means the tail is 16 feet long.
Gross.
Awful.
Great math, though.
Thank you. And apparently, it gets on its hind legs and then it just takes off before anyone can catch him. And it takes off, quote, with the velocity of a racehorse.
Wow. Scary.
These men had hunting dogs with them, but the dogs froze in fear. So the men have to go after this thing by themselves. And they report back that the monster is running without slowing down, destroying everything in its path, and finds another hole in the ground to hide in. So they see it get into this hole, and the men decide to keep guard of the hole while they wait for it to come out eventually. But it never, ever did. And eventually they all had to go home. And that was the last time anyone saw the Crosswick monster.
That is weirdly compelling to me. Because at the beginning I was like, okay. Now I'm just like, wow, a lot of people are claiming they saw this thing.
Well, so that is one of the most compelling parts is that apparently 60 men reported back to a newspaper that this is what they saw.
60 men. Yeah, that's pretty wild. It's like if it were just two kids, you know, I can kind of write that off. But why are all these people seeing it?
Even those 3 men, I mean, for some reason, I guess when you can compare it to 60 men, 3 men all of a sudden feels like not a lot of witnesses.
Yeah, and if since that 3 men incident was happening at the same time as the kids, so it's like maybe that one story got twisted, but like the fact that they went back out to the tree and say they saw it again is just like, I wonder what the motivation would be there to all make that up, or
maybe they were like, "Hey, Crosswick right now is just a paper town.
I had the same thought. Put it on the map, but more than it is right now."
Yeah, we gotta. All attention is good attention in Crosswick. So the town decided that, I guess they declared that this was basically a giant reptile, and it was an enemy of the town, but nobody knew where it was. And for weeks after this event, people wanted more updates, and so they kept going to the Cincinnati Enquirer.
Let's see,
and they were like, what is the situation? What's the 411 Cincy Enquirer? But CE, Cincinnati Enquirer, I'm trying to do the cigarette puff again.
No, it's working.
Okay. But all that the newspaper did in response to these like requests for an update, all they did was put out a 1-paragraph article about Joe's recovery. And it was like, he's fine, but he's using a crutch currently. Okay. Oh, and also the monster can be venomous. That was literally the article where they were like,
what?
They're like, Joe's fine, but just to like fearmonger a little more. This monster maybe has venom in it.
Where did they come up with that? I don't know. Okay, sure.
They're like, we're CE. We can do whatever we want.
It might or might not. It's not wrong, I guess.
So people keep asking for more information. One person even writes in suggesting that the monster was not a lizard or a snake like people thought. It was actually a python. So I guess type of snake, but specifically a python. And their reasoning, which Christine, hey, remember that whole conversation we had about how much I don't like snakes?
Correct.
Their reasoning for why this might be a python is because they said, well, pythons have legs.
No, they don't.
But they do.
Don't do this to me.
But they have tiny little legs.
There's one thing worse than a snake without legs, and that's a snake with legs.
And apparently they're vestigial organs. I think that's what's called.
Vestigial, like how we have organs. Vestigial tails.
Yes. So It's just, so technically a python has legs, and so I think this writer was saying maybe they
saw tiny little
or maybe like their mutation was worse and like they had actual legs.
Oh, I see. Should I Google python legs? I'm a little scared.
So you can actually see them on pythons, but it just looks like little nubs. Like they don't actually like sprout out.
Oh, it's like a little claw almost.
Yeah. It's enough to make me upset. But like it doesn't actually, they don't do anything.
You can't like, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay.
They're certainly not 4 feet long and carrying 11-year-old boys.
They're definitely not, they're not even 4 inches long as far as I can tell. Okay.
4 centimeters, maybe.
Maybe.
But so anyway, that was one person's reasoning of like, oh, well, pythons technically have legs, so maybe this one just had a lot of actual legs.
Okay.
So even though it wasn't completely wrong of an argument, this monster did actually have very noticeable functional legs. So most people was like, okay, well, that reasoning doesn't work.
No.
Some people thought that this could have just been a massive lizard, but the world's biggest lizard, do you know what that is? Do you know the name of it?
A Komodo dragon?
Yes. And do you know how long they get?
I should, because I just went to the reptile house at the zoo, at the Cincy Zoo.
Oh, the CZ.
Yeah, we saw a Gila monster, which they pronounce Gila monster, so maybe I was saying it wrong. And a Komodo dragon. I would say, I don't know, 13 feet?
It's apparently only about 10 feet.
Oh, okay.
But this reasoning is like, okay, well, the world's biggest lizard only gets to 10 feet. This is 3 times bigger than that. So anyway, nobody ever determined what this monster was. They basically just think it was an exaggerated game of telephone from the 1800s. And over the years, it's gotten more out of hand. But the story of Ed and Joe, the 2 little kids, plus all those like 60 men seeing it and it being backed by the Cincy Inquirer. And the Cincy Inquirer even said that the story was also backed by a judge in town who was one of the oldest and most influential citizens in Crosswick. So all of this just makes it seem like it was pretty valid. But I will also say the Cincinnati Inquirer described the sycamore tree as 26 feet wide. When the largest sycamore tree, at least at that time, was around 8 feet wide. So even the information just doesn't sound like it's totally solid. So I don't know how much you want to take from it, but they were the only ones really reporting on it. So we just kind of have to go off of their word, I guess.
I mean, they're one of the biggest publications around here. So I'm almost surprised that they covered it while no other like local smaller places did. It's very
I wonder if it was it was also
maybe they got the exclusive scoop. They were like,
maybe
we're paying for this special scoop.
Maybe also it was the 1880s. So like
right.
For all I know, like they, I'm not judging them. I feel like in the 1880s you could get away with a lot.
Honestly, I think that was part of it. I mean, we've covered so many stories where like newspapers are just outrageous sometimes back then. They can just kind of say things.
Maybe they were trying a new thing where they were like, okay, we're like a big publication, but we got to bring in like the what are we missing that like the readers are getting elsewhere, and they're like, oh, Bat Boy just left the cave, we got to put stuff like that in here,
a new column we need to add to our paper. Yeah, that makes sense.
Or maybe someone wrote this in as like a fun little did you know, like, and it's just random fun fact history,
and people just kind of took to it. I there's some antique stores around here that sell like old copies. I would just love if I could find an original copy of that.
I think it was May 1882. So
okay, well, let me make sure I look that up before this episode comes out and everyone snatches up all the newspapers.
I'm gonna need to just ask Zandy if we can use his newspaper.
Oh yeah, I will. I still have his password, I think.
Okay, perfect.
May of what? 18 what?
I think it was 82.
You know what's so wild is that like my house was being built around that same time.
So technically, this little thing could have slithered up next to your house one day.
I sure hope so. What if I find the skeleton of it underneath my house?
Forget it. Anyway, nobody ever officially saw the Crosswick monster again, but over time reports have come up of something in Shaker Swamp, which I guess is 10 miles from the first sighting. And in 2012, 2 other fishermen who were not Ed and Joe They were in Cedar Creek State Park, which was 5 miles from the first sighting, and they also saw an unidentified animal in the tree line. But it had like glowing eyes and was growling at them, and that's all they really saw. So it could be a completely different cryptid or just an identified animal. But others, I guess at this point, think it must have been, if it were anything, must have been a massive lizard or snake. It could have been like a misplaced alligator, because especially if it was propelling with its tail. Like I know, like, don't they do that to like come up out of the water?
I don't know, but that sounds right. You're the one who went on the Gator Swamp tour.
Honestly, that was the bravest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, and looking back, I'm like, I can't believe you did that.
I wouldn't do it again. To be clear.
Well, things have changed. You're 30 now.
Next time we go to New Orleans, I won't be on any swamp tours.
In like 2 weeks, yeah, I think I won't find you there. I'll find you in your hotel room where we're both eating a lot of snacks.
I can say I've done it. And like, I remember them making me hold that little alligator. And like, that is the equivalent to me of holding a snake, but it just has legs. It's the same thing.
Thankfully, it was a baby, so it wasn't like as...
It was a baby, but it could sense fear, and it could only sense my fear.
I don't know why I'm trying to diminish it. It sounds scary.
I really wish they had said, like, oh, do you want to hold this? Because it was just coming at me, and I was like, all I wanted to do was go, I don't want that. I mean,
they call that part of our brain the reptilian brain, which is like the oldest and most primal part of you that's like, get away from that alligator, get away from that spider, something dangerous is happening. And then they're like, here you go, take a photo with it.
Well, I don't know like its biting ability as a baby. I know as a big boy, it could like eat a car maybe, but like...
yeah, you definitely know that for sure.
Like if it like bit my hand, if it didn't like me, does it hurt as much as like if a cat bit me, or is it like I don't know. I didn't want to find out, and it felt like a rubber tubing with like it was gross. Anyway, I'm glad I did it, and I'm happy to never do it again. But the most fun I'll never enjoy a second time. So the last thing I'll say about this is, if it's not a misplaced alligator, the other big theory, which is we haven't really stayed inside the realms of reality
theory
at this
in
point.
Air quotes, so right.
But there is a conspiracy that this thing might be from another world, and that it can move through dimensions. And apparently there are a lot of mythical creatures that use trees as portals.
Yeah, well, we've talked about like how there's that potential, especially when we talk about Skinwalker Ranch and all that, of different types of beings and cryptids and extraterrestrials like coming from different planes.
Yeah, so
maybe it's one of them.
They think that this might just be using those trees and holes as portals to switch worlds, and that's why we never saw it again.
How creepy. What if it had pulled the kid through? Can you imagine?
Oh my God, that kid would have...
He would have grown up with the lizard people.
That would have... Talk about the tell-all when that kid found another tree with a hole in it and got back here.
Came back. That's a new Stephen King Hulu series. I can see it now.
Okay, well, great. I'll reach out to the Crosswick Snake monster and that little boy and see if they can reenact it for us. And
don't bother. Reach out to the Cincy Inquirer. I'm sure they've got all that on archive.
Right.
And that was a great story. I like cryptid stories a lot. I don't think if this one for some reason is just very compelling to me.
Compelling, like believable, or compelling, like you're rooting for them?
Fascinating. I don't know what it is about this story, but for some reason, maybe it's that it's so high. I don't know. But something about it is less, because I feel like most of the cryptids you talk about end up having a kind of like, well, anyway, it was all fun and games, and so made it up, and that's the end of the story. But this one has like an open ending, you know?
Yeah. Nobody admitted to coming up with the story. So
I feel like there weren't even any like theories that were like, oh, they all made it up because there was a big circus coming to town and they all wanted to join the circus.
That was one of the episodes of the Waltons. Didn't I tell you about that? Where they became friends with all the carnival people?
That's probably why I had that on my mind. I was like, where am I going with this?
Well, the episode started with the police being like, look out, the carnival's in town.
Oh, no, not the carnies. Watch out.
They were like a bunch of those people that work there. They're all coming into town and they're going to break into your house. And it was like, why are we so harsh on these people?
You want to see a bearded lady in your bathroom? it's 1950, whatever.
and they actually, sure enough, they found them and like squatting at an abandoned home. But then they became friends. And then
love that.
Before they had to leave to go to their next show in the next town over, they performed a personal circus just for the Waltons. It was lovely.
Special for them.
I know.
What a special friendship.
Tell me about death.
Okay. I'd be happy to. You know, I think part of the reason, I'm sorry, I'm still talking about your story, but I also find it, you know, Astonishing Legends jokes about this a lot, that like just the weirdest shit happens in Ohio, and neither of them are from Ohio. So it just always strikes me because there are so many weird, like Ohio's it's joked about as being such a blah place, but then there are so many weird things that happen there, like cryptids and alien stories, and even the amount of like paranormal podcasts that come out of Ohio. There's just a very weird thing happening in that state.
Is it Ohio specifically, or like the Midwest, or is it like
maybe it's
more
the Midwest,
rural areas, and therefore more things to hide?
I don't know, because like I don't hear about. I mean, maybe it's just I hear more about it because I'm from there, so it's like confirmation bias. But I feel like every podcast I listen to about creepy stuff always makes some sort of joke about like, of course it's from Ohio. I don't know. It just seems like a weird pattern. So I don't know. I'm just curious.
I feel like I think about Virginia. I don't know a lot of Virginia specific cryptids, right? Which is weird. I feel like we should have more water cryptids because we have a coastline. Yeah. We've got the Bunny Man, but I don't think I know of too many. You know what I feel like should be Virginia cryptids? I feel like the jackalope would be a great Virginia thing.
Yeah, where is jackalope? What is it actually based out of?
I don't know, but there's like a 49 out of 50% chance it's like not.
I was going to say, because I feel like somebody's going to be like, that's a blank
jackalope.
North Carolina or something.
It feels like it just says North American. I feel like it's Wyoming or something, isn't it? Hang on.
Yeah, I just feel like it tends to be a Midwest thing. These cryptids, these
Wyoming,
Wyoming, which is also where Hodag is. No, that's Wisconsin. I don't know.
All Midwest.
I know. I think it's Midwest something. I mean, somebody gave me a shirt recently at the Beachy Sandy live show that said "Welcome to the Midwest," and it has like a UFO, like abducting a cow or something. And I'm like, I don't know. It's just kind of a trope that weird shit happens in Ohio.
Are you and Zandy doing any more shows that you need to shout out or anything?
We are, but it's the only one. I think I might have already mentioned it is in Chicago and it's sold out. So
look at you.
Dun.
Where is it at?
It's called the Den Theater. I don't really know anything.
You guys are in theaters now?
I think so. Yeah.
Look at you go, Christine.
I hadn't even thought of that. Aw. Yeah, it's a small theater, but it's a theater. You're right. Okay. We're going to Australia now. So I know we've all had fun in Ohio, but we're going to Australia.
Oh, okay. Hey, I'm down. They've got kangaroos.
They do. Full circle.
Just to bring it back with their little propelling tails, apparently.
That's right. That's how they swim. Now, they also have something called the Scarlet Letter murder.
Oh, okay. Is it similar to the Scarlet Letter where someone has a
Scarlet Letter?
A letter etched into them?
It certainly is.
Oy, okay. Sorry.
How did you know?
Well, that's like the only book I retained from 10th grade. So
what a traumatizing one to retain.
I think that's why I retained it. I was like, this is too juicy to forget. Also, it was like all about gossip. So
it was about town gossip. Yep.
It aligned town with me. Drama. I aligned with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Do you have to peanut butter your bread or whatever
I do want to take a bite of my cabbage.
It's like things happen below. Like I can't even begin to guess what's going on. You know what I mean? I like last week. I'm like, wow, Em must be like Google mapping something. I didn't know. And then you're like, oh, here's my peanut butter sandwich. It just appeared. Now I'm like, okay, got it. Peanut butter sandwich. There's just like a red cabbage appears in front of me. I can't.
At least you know it's always food. It's nothing else.
I am comforted that it's food. Although sometimes I do hypothesize that maybe you're, shopping eBay for Beanie Babies or something, or
no, it's never that fun. I'm usually I just wish everyone else gets to eat while they listen to you tell your stories, and I don't. And I'm the only person in the world who doesn't get to do this.
I'm the only person in the world who doesn't get to eat during your stories, and
you're welcome to it. But I just
for some reason you say you're not allowed to, and you do it anyway. So I don't really understand the.
I just need something crunchy. Okay, last bite.
No, you eat up. You're recovering. You're in recovery from a health crisis. Eat your cabbage.
I'm good now. We're good.
Before I know, Nurse Sam's gonna be like, or Nate. What's his name? Nurse Nate? No, Nurse Sam.
Nurse Steve.
Steve, damn it. Before I know it, Nurse Steve's gonna be like, you are dissuading Em from eating cabbage.
Listen, this heart healthy bullshit is not the diet for me.
Nobody told you to eat raw cabbage, and if they did, they're misguiding you. That's raw cabbage you're eating.
I actually love raw cabbage.
Well, then stop complaining.
But no, like I've just been eating nothing but like clean, healthy food for.
I literally saw you eating a charcuterie board the other day,
and it was lovely. It was lovely. I
wouldn't necessarily call that healthy. Is that healthy?
Here, it wasn't a charcuterie board. It was all fruits and vegetables.
You don't.
We were trying to do
those were cheeses. I was like, damn. I didn't even like cheese.
We called it a heart-cuterie board. No?
You could work on that. I think you might need a little time.
That's fine. Here. But like,
it was beautiful. I was very jealous.
It's literally all fruits and veggies.
Oh, but it's so cute.
It was very beautiful. Also, the thing you're talking about is right here in the middle. We had like 4 or 5 like little turkey roll-ups, but that was it.
Oh my gosh.
That was the only meat. Everything else was grains and fruits and veggies.
That's beautiful. It looks yummy.
And it's very yummy, very lovely. But after like so many days in a row of only eating that, I just like, wow, I want a chicken pot pie. Like,
is that not heart healthy? What's like not heart? What are you not allowed to eat? Like cheeseburgers, I imagine like classic fast food, probably.
Like heavy, creamy things. Lots of like unhealthy carbs. Like I need to basically just be eating healthy fats and like
so not pizza,
healthy grains,
not like the classics like fried chicken, stuff like that. Okay.
The closest to pizza I've gotten lately is low sodium rice cakes with avocado or peanut butter on them, which is delicious also. But when you're thinking about pizza, it does not work.
I have a feeling you're talking to people 85% of, maybe even 95% of who've been on pretty intense diets for weight loss, and we do understand.
I feel for anyone who's just like craving a pizza and can't eat it. I'll tell you that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just I'm very excited to not have to eat like this anymore. But I also, part of me still feels the need to. I have like this like anxiety that if I all of a sudden eat like a hamburger, like my heart's gonna like rip itself out of my chest. So I am still like scared enough into doing it without having to be told to not eat unhealthy food.
I totally got you. Yeah,
I just really miss unhealthy food.
Well, hopefully over time it's like, take like you get a small fry or you have a few bites and
this and that
back to normal.
Yeah.
It's going to be so weird. I feel like I can't drink around you because I feel like we both have to, sacrifice. But I mean, obviously that's not going to happen.
There have been a few times I've had to pull myself away from the chocolate milk in the fridge. But
no, that's sad.
Other than that, no, we've been trying like healthier restaurants and all that, and we're doing fine. I'm
very proud of you because that is very hard, and I am not in that position right now. So I feel very fortunate. And I will not take it lightly when I eat, like, a pizza later or something.
Go eat a cheesecake for me,
When I go eat a cheesecake, I'm going to think of you and shed a tear.
Thank you.
Okay. So, this is the Scarlet Letter murder. I'm really excited about this one. Maybe that's why I'm in such a peppy mood. I don't know. And I don't mean like, oh, this is fun, because, it's just terrible. But it's one of those unsolved mysteries where I feel like you might, and I don't want to put the pressure on you, but I feel like you might have thoughts about this or what happened, because it is a lot of like he said, she said, classic conundrum. There are, as far as I know, no they bees involved, but we'll say he said, she said, they said, who knows? And so I feel like you might have some thoughts, if not NBD, but it is also one where I have warned you of this before in stories where there are a lot of moving parts, and you're better at this than like anyone I know of, like keeping track of who's who, just because
what
you're acting like, if I don't know. I feel like you're better at retaining like who people are and how they're connected.
Sure. Okay.
From like,
sure. Let's put that to the test today.
Well, I know we've had a story like that before where I'm like, please somewhere in your brain keep these people.
Okay, got it. It's on me.
And you did that last time, so I feel like I'm hoping you can help me, because it's just confusing, and I don't want anyone out there listening to be confused. So if you feel like you need explanation, please tell me.
I'll do my best. I've got my little desk gargoyles, and I'll make them different people, and I'll remember their relationships.
I love that. Oh, that's so smart. Make a little web, like a little family tree.
This little person was the town gossip, and this little person. Okay, got it.
Okay, great. So we're in Phillip Island, which is in Victoria, Australia, about 2 hours from Melbourne. And it's accessible by bridge, which makes it a popular tourist spot for Australians and international travelers. In 1986, which is the year that this was taking place, the island's 40 square miles were covered in beaches and farmland. So people loved to kind of go out there for a more rural vacation, that kind of thing. And it was also known for having a Grand Prix track, which is basically where they would hold
like racing cars.
Exactly, like a right? So racetrack. They were also known for, and earlier today when we were preparing, I almost said this phrase, and I was like, wow, that would spoil the whole thing.
Oh yeah, can I guess?
Absolutely.
I'll be wrong, but no, Christine did say earlier, oh, I almost said 2 words that would have given away my whole story. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? But now that you've said Australia, I'm primed to think one of the words is at least kangaroo?
No, but you are weirdly on the right track.
Okay, what?
The penguin parade.
That would have not given it away.
I know. It doesn't really spoil anything except that it's just something I was so excited to tell you about that I didn't want to say it early and then like ruin the surprise. Basically, this island is known for its penguin parade. And
interesting.
It's going to be more involved. Like, this is part of the story, so don't worry. We're going to get back to that. But just as an overview, that's what this island is known for. The population in 1986 was roughly 4,000 people, and the island was described as close-knit and protective, sometimes even secretive. And, kind of like if something dramatic were to happen, like, say, a big snake comes out of the ground.
We're in Australia, mate. Okay,
you're like,
it's gonna happen.
Oh, that's just what everyday life. That's a great point. Okay, I take it back. Anything kind of out of the ordinary, sparks people's attention and gossip, let's say.
Sure.
So there is this woman, 23-year-old Beth Barnard, and she decided to move into her parents' vacation house on Phillip Island in the 80s, and she took a job as a ranger at the penguin parade.
That's badass.
It is. I gasped when I heard that. So let me tell you a little bit about the penguin parade. If I may.
Oh, yeah, please.
Okay, so according to the Penguin Parade website, Phillip Island is home to the largest little penguin colony in the world. And by the way, these are also sometimes known as fairy penguins. So they're the little ones because they're very small and petite and like precious, and they kind of hop.
Is it like pygmy goats but penguins?
Cute. They're small. I've seen them at the Cincy Zoo.
The CZ.
The CZ. Not to be confused with the CE. Let me send you some. Oh my God, they're so stinking cute. Penguins. Yeah, just Google that. I'm texting a.
Oh, they're little babies.
Yeah, they're called little penguins. That's like legitimately the species name.
See, a penguin, I feel the complete opposite of a snake.
Oh my God, look at that cuddle bug.
There couldn't be. There's no such thing as too many near me. when it comes to little penguins.
It's genuinely miraculous, these little guys. Eva's probably in the bathroom or like doing like, I don't know, doing something, making tea, and it's like, what are these photos coming in from like a rat in a teacup, a bunch of strawberries painted to look like strawberries, and a bunch of little penguins. Anyway, so Phillip Island is home to the largest colony of these little guys in the world. And you can actually go experience the magic. This is from their website. The magic of watching these amazing seabirds waddle home from the ocean to their burrows any night of the year from our viewing platforms and boardwalks. So literally every single night, people gather just to watch them walk their daily walk back to their burrows. And it's like this magical sight. They're all waddling together. And this is like what they're very famous for on this island.
Very precious. It's kind of like our Memphis Peabody ducks. Or like the San Francisco seals at Pier was it Pier 39 or whatever. But I feel like there's always,
or isn't it San Diego seals, or is it?
It's San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
It's near Fisherman's Wharf. But like I feel like no matter where you go, there's always a town relatively nearby with a clump of animals everyone just gathers to stare at. You can just
watch, which is so cute.
I would have not expected penguins in Australia, to be clear.
Parade.
I would have thought like a koala bear or something, but okay.
Gathered to watch the sloth make its daily 3-inch trek. No, so anyway, the penguins take their daily commute, and she decided to, what a dream that it sounds like a novel, like a teen novel. Like, I moved into my parents' vacation home on the island and started working at the penguin parade. What a dream job.
It sounds like what Lizzie McGuire hoped for.
Yeah, yes. It sounds like a Disney Channel original for sure. So Beth had 2 best friends on the island. There was Marie, who also worked with the penguins, and then Denise, whose husband worked with the penguins. So that's how she met her friends. The women were reportedly inseparable. They talked every day. They spent most of their free time together. Denise said they told each other everything, including Beth's affair with a married man named Fergus Cameron.
Fergus Cameron.
Okay.
Was he like the penguin wrangler?
Kind of. Not really, but kind of, because 36-year-old Fergus Cameron was a prolific Phillip Island resident. He was wealthy. His family was this like big name on the island. They owned a lot of land. He actually owned the Grand Prix track. His family owned that.
Oh, dang. Okay, so he's a big hotshot on campus.
He is a hotshot, exactly. He grew up on Phillip Island. He was known by everyone on the island. He was a founding shareholder of the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. He was, and I think in 2004, the family actually ended up selling it for $20 million. So like this, they are like a big name, big money on this island. And he was widely involved with the island community at large. So I want to tell you, this is where you need to put on your like reality TV cap and put these people in, their perspective spots. Okay. This is why I'm bad at Clue, because I can't like retain all of the different, like who did it, who didn't do it.
There's like 6 people. Okay. Anyway.
I know. Okay. So Fergus Cameron, he's married. He lives together on a big farm with different family members in different houses. So they basically...
It's like their own little commune.
Yeah, their own little commune, their own little neighborhood. So he lives with his wife, Vivian, and their 2 young sons. His sister, Marnie, lives nearby with her husband, Ian. And his brother, Donald, lives nearby with his wife, Pamela.
Okay, so there are 3 siblings and their spouses all living together.
Correct. There you go. Yes.
I'm not kidding. Actually, these little gargoyles are helping.
Oh, good.
I'm like, okay, so that one's married to this one.
We were just saying, I was like, oh, first I see peanut butter bread, then I see raw cabbage, and now all of a sudden you're holding gargoyles up after doing some movement. It's really, you're full of surprises.
I'm just here to have a good time. That's all.
It seems to be working. So basically, the 3 siblings live nearby each other on the same plot of land with their respective partners. So it's 2 brothers and a sister. Donald,
Fergus.
See, I already forget. And Marnie.
Okay.
Why they named him Fergus, nobody will know, but that's besides the point. So Vivian, who's Fergus's wife, she was reportedly a newcomer to the island and sometimes seemed like an outsider struggling to fit in while her husband thrived in the kind of spotlight. I actually just listened to an audiobook that I was talking to Eva about for a while called Quiet, which is like the power of an introvert, or the power of introverts in a world that can't stop talking, I think it's called. And I said that to my mom and she's like, well, you're the one who never stops talking. And I was like, okay, well, you know what? You're not wrong, I guess. But anyway, one of the stories was about Eleanor Roosevelt and how she kind of joined, obviously became first lady and was so unprepared for that kind of life of like making speeches and like being in big groups. And so it kind of reminds me of this, where his wife kind of married into this very successful, wealthy, prolific family, and she just didn't feel like she fit in. Yeah, she just felt kind of separate from everybody. So she was naturally shy. She preferred to avoid the spotlight, and her brother said she did all kinds of like very noble and awesome things for the community. So even though she wasn't super outgoing, she volunteered to teach night English lessons to immigrants in the area. And she never told anybody about her work. So it wasn't like she was doing it for the attention or the good graces of everyone. So I watched a YouTube video by a true crime YouTuber named Liz Wakeford, and her video was really helpful. She said that people described Vivian as kind, intelligent, quiet, but very funny with a dry sense of humor. She worked at the Phillip Island Community Center, and apparently, like, anytime a friend was having a hard time, she'd show up with a casserole and a bottle of wine. She even was known to go out of her way to find homes for kittens at kill shelters so that they wouldn't be put down, and really was an advocate for women on the island. So I tell you all this because she becomes a key player in this, and we just got to know a little bit about her personality to figure
And how
this out.
is she related to...
She is married to Ferguson.
Vivian.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
I'm not Ferguson. Fergus, sorry. She is married to Fergus, and they almost named the hippo at the Cincy Zoo Ferguson, and it's been in my mind.
It's throwing you off.
Yeah, it is throwing me off big time. But so Vivian married Fergus and married into this kind of family where they're like,
right, and she feels like an outcast and all this stuff. Okay,
she feels like an outsider, but she's still like very involved in the community and very devoted to her family. So Beth, back to Beth, who is 23, just moved there, works at the penguin farm, not the penguin farm, yikes, the penguin parade. And at the penguin parade, she meets Fergus. Mm-hmm. So she falls deeply head over heels in love with him. And she even told friends he was her first serious relationship. Basically, in 1985, after meeting him, a few months later, he hired her to work on the family farm. And she came and started working on the family farm where he lived with Vivian and his brother and sister. And she became like ingratiated to the whole family. They became extremely close. And then she and Fergus started up a sexual relationship.
And nobody was like, this is fishy. Why is she always here?
No.
Okay.
Nope. I guess not. At least not right away. So she told her friends that he was her first serious relationship and her first sexual relationship. So this was like a big deal for her. Meanwhile, he's married. And so obviously that's a huge problem. Fergus's sister-in-law, Pamela, recalls Beth sometimes fondly referring to Donald as Uncle Donald, and Pamela and Donald considered Beth family. Like, they really, sometimes she even called Donald Grandpa, like, as a joke. Like, they were just very, very, very close. And Beth began to feel extremely guilty about her affair with Fergus. She wanted, obviously, Fergus to herself, but she was also now really close with his sons, and they were young, and she did not want to upend their lives for her own benefit, so she was very conflicted, I guess, let's say.
Yeah, sure.
And she thought it was best for them that Fergus and Vivian stay together, but she was like madly in love, and so she couldn't reconcile those two things. And Beth's friends, said they didn't think she would purposely break up a happy marriage, but then of course Fergus may have said, his marriage was loveless and she was doing him a favor by coming in. Just the classic kind of trope of like he's pursuing her and trying to convince her that his marriage isn't all it's cracked up to be, to assuage her guilt. So that is backed up by some evidence, which is that Fergus later told investigators, quote, "I'm sure Vivian had feelings toward me, but I found it difficult to have feelings toward her." And that's his wife. Oof. So, that goes to show maybe he was kind of playing down the importance of his marriage to keep Beth around.
Sure.
So in Vivian's world now, she eventually does catch on that Fergus is having this affair. And,
how long did that take? Do we know?
I don't know. Their entire affair lasted 16 months.
Oh, that's a long one.
It's a long one, and Vivian knew for quite some time, I believe. It's not
she
really
sensed
clear.
it.
Well, she tried to get him to go to marriage counseling because of the affair, so I do know that for a while at least she was aware and was trying to fix the relationship, and that is because she came from a family that had like almost similar incident play out where her father left her mother for a much younger woman. And that had like really hurt her as a child. And so she just desperately wanted to salvage her marriage so that her sons didn't, have to go through the trauma of that divorce. And so she tried to get him into therapy several times. I think they said the last time was 7 weeks before this incident that we will be discussing. And so she knew at least 7 weeks, but presumably longer than that because she was trying to get him into therapy for a while.
Okay.
So allegedly she became physically and verbally abusive and the relationship turned sour. We don't know. We have one side of that story, so we're just going to have to take that at its word, I guess. Beth felt the affair caused her social grief as well. So even though she was, not the one married in this relationship, she felt like she was getting flack for it. So she told her friends that a coworker found out about this affair and reported it to their manager at work, who scolded Beth for spending too much time with Fergus. So her job was almost jeopardized for this affair. So on September 22nd of 1986, Beth hung out at her friend Marie's house, and she told Marie she didn't really see a future with Fergus and planned to meet with him that night to give him an ultimatum about their relationship.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So she's like, you know what? Which, I mean, again, this is like classic story of, her or me. And so she tells her best friend, we're going to talk about this tonight. And this is where the timeline is very important and also very disputed, let's say. So these are going to be different people's accounts of what happened.
Okay.
So that night, Fergus had heard that Beth wasn't feeling well and had some sort of flu symptoms. And so he said he went to her house to check on her. According to him, he left the penguin parade around 8 p.m., popped in at Beth's, and then left her house around 9, so an hour later.
Okay.
If this were true, this would make him the last person to see Beth alive before she was murdered.
Oh boy. Okay.
But according to him, he is adamant that he did leave her alive and well. After checking on her, he allegedly came home to find Vivian had been drinking wine with his sister, Marnie. So he gets home, sister's there with his wife, and they had both been drinking wine. Mm-hmm. When Marnie left, Vivian had apparently been like building this anger toward him, and so she confronted Fergus about Beth because she was like, you know what, I know you're seeing someone and you're not participating in therapy, whatever it may be. She was like, I know you are with her, and she assumed that's where he had been because she had called the Penguin Parade, and found out he got off work at 8. And then when he didn't come home for over an hour, she was like, I know where you were. And she had just built up this anger. And so does her
drinking wine ever come into play here of like, oh, she was drunk or anything?
Sort of. So she has been drinking. This is Ferguson's
wife.
Tale. Yeah, but this is his version of events. So she's been drinking and she confronts him. And apparently the fight gets so out of hand that she takes her wine glass and smashes it into his head in a rage and then begins stabbing him with shards of glass.
Holy shit. Okay.
But pretty soon after that, she calms down and realizes he needs medical attention because she has physically harmed him.
Uh-huh.
So she decides she has to take him to the hospital. So,
okay.
Like, this whole story. Okay. So Vivian is like, shit, I've hurt you. I'm sorry. I got to take you to the hospital. So she calls Marnie, the sister who lives nearby.
Who was drinking with her.
She calls Marnie and Ian. She says, could you please come over and look after the kids? They're sleeping, but I have to take Fergus to the hospital. So can you just stay at our place? And
can you imagine being Marnie and then getting a phone call after you just had a great
45
night? Just
minutes later.
Gal palling with a glass of wine. And it's like, hey, girl, so I stabbed him in the chest with a bunch of shards of glass.
My bad. You know your brother that we were all joking about at wine night? Well, I did something bad to the back of his head.
That poor girl. I mean, that poor man too. And everyone is not in good sorts currently.
No, everyone deserves a little hug or something.
Yeah.
At this point, at least. Yeah. So she calls Marnie and Ian and says, hey, thanks for the great wine night. And Marnie's like, did I forget something there? And she's like, no, actually.
The kids, actually. Can you come get them?
You forgot you need to stay overnight. So they come over, But Vivian and Fergus have already gone to the hospital. So Marnie and Ian come over. They immediately notice signs of an altercation. So I don't know if at this point Vivian has said, hey, I hit your brother in the head with a glass. She may have just said, oh, he hurt himself and we have to go to the hospital. But they walk in the house and they're like, wow, okay, clearly a fight has happened here between Vivian and Fergus. Because they notice blood on clothes in a laundry basket, on some tissues, and then some also in a spare room. And Marnie then noticed a single shard of broken glass on the floor. And her thought, of course, is, oh, well, that's dangerous, especially if the kids wake up in the morning, so I'm going to throw this away. Mm-hmm. So inadvertently cleaned up a lot of what may have later become evidence, if that makes sense.
Good job, girl.
Yeah. But
she wouldn't have known.
And to be fair, there are little kids in the house, so you're going to see broken glass and
totally makes sense.
And as far as everyone's fine. They're just at the hospital getting checked out.
Yep.
So they come over, they notice this stuff, and meanwhile at the hospital, the nurses quietly assumed something had happened domestically, but they also noticed that Vivian and Fergus were really, really close, very, very intimate almost with each other.
Vivian and Fergus?
Yeah, at the hospital.
I mean, I guess part of it is oh, well, she's worried about him and they're married. But also it's oh, but you stabbed him. Why are you close all of a sudden?
And so there's some dispute about that. And I know some of the nurses even mentioned, or at least one of the nurses mentioned, that later when she heard, that Vivian had allegedly done this to Fergus, she was like, wait, that doesn't add up, because I would have guessed that he and one of his brothers got into a fight and she was trying to comfort him and take care of him or something. But she was like, the way that, and again, just seeing how somebody reacts in a situation doesn't necessarily tell you everything. But at least that one nurse kind of said, wait, what? That is not how they were behaving. That they had been the ones in the fight. It looked like she was helping consoling him. Yeah. So who knows? I mean, that could be part of an abuse situation too. So it's hard to say. But basically, they didn't find any glass in his wound to corroborate that there had been glass involved, but they just had to take the story for its word. And after he was treated, Fergus was taken to Marnie's house by Vivian. So Marnie and Ian had gone to Vivian's house, taken the kids over to their house and said, we'll just watch them at our house. So after the hospital, Vivian brings Fergus to their house to stay the night. Now, this is where Fergus says he and his wife had a talk. She said, you know what? You stay with your sister and the kids. I'm going to go back to my family in Melbourne, however you say it, on the mainland. And you and our sons stay on the island as the divorce goes through.
Oh, damn.
And she said, because you're a great father, I believe was the quote, you basically keep our kids, and I'm going to move back in with my family.
Okay.
This is how this story goes from Fergus's perspective. So he goes to his sister's house, stays the night. This is where things get even weirder. So at 3 a.m. that night, Vivian called her friend. This is where you need another gargoyle. Robin Dixon.
Vivian called Robert Dixon.
Robin
Dixon. Okay.
Yes. And Robin, with a Y, if you're wondering, gets this call from her friend, Vivian. And Robin's husband, John, answers the phone. It's 3 a.m. He's like, is everything okay? And she says, I just had a fight with Fergus. Can you come watch my kids while I take Fergus to the hospital?
This is happening after the whole
This is happening at 3 a.m.
After the hospital thing already happened.
After the hospital thing already happened.
Okay, so replay. She's being very, very lovey-dovey to him in the hospital, which is already out of character. Then they get back home, and then she says, I'm going to go stay with my parents. You stay here with the kids. I'll catch you at the divorce hearing or something. Then, I guess, wherever she is at 3 a.m, calls her friend and says, oh, can you come watch my kids? Even though she just told him, you can have the kids. Okay, we're caught up.
Yes, you're exactly. Thank you. This is why I need your beautiful mind on this, because.
And that's what you missed on Glee.
Yes. So thank you for catching everybody up. And I will add too that Fergus said during their discussion about you keep the kids and I will move to the mainland, he also said, oh, by the way, she said, you keep the kids and I understand that your new partner is Beth and you guys go be happy together.
So she really, for all he's aware of or for all he's telling, she dipped out. She was like, clean cut, you do you, I do me.
I'm so happy, maybe not happy for you, but like, oh, I understand.
Yeah. Like, we're bygones be bygones.
Yep.
We'll figure it out with
We'll
the kids.
settle this later. Exactly.
Like,
and so
a homie in terms of a divorcee.
Yeah, like if you're
really going to keep it clean.
Yeah, just was like, okay, you know what? But also kind of pulling a 180 from desperately hoping to keep her family together. So just a strange turn of events. And, there's also that element of like, I kind of touch on this, but everyone who knew her said like she would not have left the kids and said, you're a great dad, bye. Like that's just something so out of character.
Well, it would make sense, especially he's already got this history with his mistress, Beth.
Beth, yep.
Okay. So, I mean, he's already got the history with Beth of like probably saying whatever he needs to get her to think that their marriage isn't doing very well. So I'd imagine he's also got it in him to tell police and the jury whatever he needs to about
fudge the story. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a great point. So that could, for all we know, that could be happening. And for all we know, he could be telling the truth. This is all alleged. Please don't sue me. Okay. So she calls Robin and is like, hey, I'm so sorry. 3 a.m. I just had this fight with Fergus and blah, blah, blah. Can you come watch the kids? Which is so weird because they already did this whole rigmarole. And so there's that piece of evidence. Vivian left, but when Robin and John showed up to pick up her sons, they noticed that her black suede handbag had been left behind in the house. They also noticed that the sedan was in the driveway, but the family's Toyota Land Cruiser, their other car, was gone. So they were like, okay, she must have taken the Land Cruiser and taken Fergus to the hospital.
But left her purse.
Behind.
Okay.
Around 8 a.m., Robin calls. She's trying to call anybody. She's trying to get a hold of Vivian, of Fergus, of anybody who can help her because she went and picked up the kids, and she still has them. And she's like, it's 8 a.m. It's a school day. What am I supposed to do with these kids?
Where do you go to school, kids?
Yeah. Well, actually, she sent one of them to school with her kid. I guess they went to the same school. And then the other one she still had. So she was like, I don't know what to do with your child. And I know you're going through something here, but like, I need someone to help me out. So she starts calling all the different Cameron family members and manages to get a hold of Donald, Uncle Donald. The brother.
Okay.
And she is explaining the situation. So Donald's like, I'll pick up the other son. I'm not, we're not using names. I don't think they've even been released because they're minors, or they were minors at the time. But so Donald says, I'll take my nephew home and keep an eye on him, but while we try to figure out what's going on with Vivian and Fergus. And I guess the kid gets a day off of school. I don't know.
Sure.
So Donald takes the child from Robin and John, and as he's passing Vivian and Fergus's house, also notices that the Land Cruiser is not in the driveway. So we can confirm now 2 people have noticed that the family car is not there.
And also, like, neither is Fergus.
Right, well, Fergus is still at Marnie and Donald's house.
Okay.
No, not Donald, sorry. This is what I'm looking at.
Marnie and Ian.
Marnie and Ian. Yes. And yes, Marnie and Ian have Fergus.
Okay.
God. Okay.
This is
I'm telling
confusing.
You. So, finally, Donald gets a hold of Fergus and is like, what is going on? Because he was not involved in the proceedings of last night. So he's like playing a game of literal telephone with a bunch of people, try to figure out, why do I now have my nephew? Where are his parents? What is up? So he gets a hold of Fergus, who seems a bit out of it from the previous night. So he says, wait, hold on. Let me read this bullet.
What is going on?
This bullet is so confusing. I just want to make sure I say it correctly.
Okay.
So Donald finally gets a hold of Fergus, but Fergus seems pretty out of it after the previous night. So he's like, okay, put me on the phone with Ian, our brother-in-law. So he's like, Ian, what the hell's going on? I have the kid. Like, what is Fergus's deal? Where's Vivian, etc. Ian is like, hey, Fergus, Donald has your kid. Where's Vivian, etc. So Ian's like the go-between. And Fergus says, can you two please go check on Beth? I'm worried about her.
What? That's quite a curveball.
Right?
It's like, hey, I know like all this is really weird, and my wife is like calling a bunch of people and telling them that we got in a fight, and also where are my kids, but everything's actually fine as far as I knew. Can you go check out my mistress?
Can you go check on my
What's there a new word for mistress? I feel like that's out of date.
I feel like that is out of date as well. I mean, I guess girlfriend?
The other woman?
The other woman. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Let's say girlfriend. Girlfriend's fine.
His girlfriend. So he says, can you check on Beth? Which we'll get into why that's odd, but it's also odd, like, why don't you go check on Beth? But okay.
Right, you're clearly just hanging out by yourself without having to watch any of your children. We're all doing it for you.
Yeah,
What's going
it's sort
on?
of like, why are you sending your brothers to go check? Whatever. So he sends his brother and his brother-in-law to go check on Beth. But Donald and Ian, being nice brothers and brothers-in-law, stop at Fergus's house to look for Vivian, because they're like, well, we'll check on your girlfriend, but we're also going to check on your wife.
Right.
You know? We should see if she's doing okay.
Yeah.
So they go to their house. Vivian is not there. So they're like, fine, we'll do what he says. We'll go check on Beth's house. They arrive at Beth's house and they find the porch light on and the door open.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
This is where I say, somebody call somebody, because I don't want to go in there.
Mm-hmm.
So Donald finds Beth first. He yells for Ian. And instead of calling the police for some reason, they decide to drive to the station. Now, Donald is he's known, like very well known as being just a very straightforward and well-spoken person.
Okay.
So it was a little odd when he arrived at the police station and muttered and rambled for about 10 minutes before saying, he doesn't even say she is dead. He says, "It's Beth. I think she's unwell." He finally manages to spit that out to the police.
Oh,
and
okay.
Yeah, she was definitely unwell. She had been brutally murdered. So
right.
Let's get into that. So sometime that night prior, sometime after Fergus had left, gone home, gone to the ER, etc., someone entered her house and attacked her while she slept. She had been stabbed to death. According to forensics, she tried to get up and fight with her attacker. She was found on her back, lying on the floor near her bed, and she had been covered up to her chin by a quilt. So whoever had done this had then afterwards
trying to like hide the evidence, or like maybe
or
out of
just
like
at least,
respect.
Something like that. Just covered up the body, which I always just find so like ironically ridiculous. It's like, oh, I felt guilt or shame. It's like, well, it's too late for that, friend. You know, a quilt's not going to do it, but whatever. So somebody covered her up with a quilt. It just gets weirder. Her ankles, knees, and elbows were covered in defensive wounds. The attacker had stabbed her viciously multiple times, slashing at her throat and face. They even broke one of her teeth in the stabbing.
Oh.
And the fact that she was stabbed in the face, you know, obviously struck investigators as like very personal.
Personal, yeah.
Because it's just, you know, it's not the deadly place. I mean, it's probably also deadly, but it's also a very personal place to stab someone in the face. There was sperm found both inside and outside of her body, but there were no DNA links found. Fergus told
Interesting.
And Fergus told.
Sorry, I know you're literally about to speak, and I keep interrupting you.
No.
He wouldn't. Did he not give a sample?
So there was not DNA evidence yet.
Okay.
So I don't know if this was something they did later, and he wasn't in the system, and he had been cleared, so they didn't. That part's not entirely clear to me, just because we do go over like the DNA thing later. But the thing with the semen is very strange because Fergus told investigators that he and Beth had not had sex that night. And then they were like, well, maybe it came from a previous encounter with Fergus. But her friends were like, no, she showers like every day. There's no way she would have gone days without showering. It just doesn't add up. So, I mean, again, we don't really know. Most shocking of all was that Beth's t-shirt was pulled up all the way to her neck and revealed a large letter A carved into her stomach. Believed to be referencing the 1850 novel, The Scarlet Letter, which, as probably anyone who took 10th grade English has at least heard of, which is, it follows Hester Prynne, who's a Puritan woman who has a child out of wedlock and must spend the rest of her life with a red A attached to her clothing, to basically be called out as an adulteress, basically being punished for her affair, you know, to having a baby out of wedlock. Anyway, investigators found no forced entry in the home, and despite Donald's like 10-minute long rambling and then saying Beth is unwell, they did note that Donald and Ian were shockingly calm about the whole thing, to the point that one investigator even said, quote, "You'd think these blokes discovered bodies every day of their lives." Like they just didn't seem fazed, which I don't know. I have a hard time with that one, with that piece of the story. I don't totally know what it means. So back at Donald's, Fergus calls Marnie, his sister, and says, no one's heard from Beth yet. And this is because, you know, the brothers went straight to the police, but they didn't call. They hadn't told him. They hadn't told Fergus what they had found.
Oh, okay.
So for all he knows, he's twiddling his thumbs waiting for his brothers to get back to him.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're at the police station, like tripping out, you know, that they've just found what they found.
Are they throwing him under the bus at all and being like, I don't know, she was sleeping with our brother?
No, so I think that was pretty much known at this point. Like that was not a secret at this point. So Fergus calls his sister and is like, I haven't heard anything. Like, I haven't heard from Beth. I want to make sure she's okay. Can you call her? Again, I say, why don't you call her?
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? This is like pre-cell phones. This isn't like, she won't answer my calls. Can you try calling her? It's like, hey, can you call and check on her? I just find this a little odd, but, it's all anecdotal, so. So Marnie gives Beth a call and, of course, does not get an answer. And so she's like, I feel weird about this whole thing. She leaves work early to get home to Fergus because he's freaking out. He's trying to figure out what's going on with Beth. Then a doctor shows up from his practice in a nearby town because he's heard of Beth's killing, and he has been given the lovely task of informing the rest of her family and friends about this death.
Worst part of that job.
I know. And I actually looked him up to see what was going on with this guy. And he's still practicing over there. He even put some of his interests. Let me make sure I have that here. While not at work, his name, by the way, in case anyone's wondering, is Dr. Paul Flood. And when not at work, he enjoys bike riding, theater, opera, and travel. So if you're looking for a GP, go check him out. Anyway, so he comes and he unfortunately has the task of letting people know about this horrible death. And at this news, Pamela also leaves work early to come home, come home to the family farm. On her way home, she's driving through nearby New Haven, which is a town over there, when she sees the missing Land Cruiser parked by a playground close to the bridge that connects Phillip Island to the mainland.
Okay. Are we thinking at this point that it's Vivian doing this or that it's Fergus?
To me, at this point, I'm like, okay, Vivian, I think.
I feel like it feels like
she's
Vivian.
Not here. Right, exactly. And that's
also for the weird phone call and like the car is missing and okay.
Exactly.
I don't know. I have no idea what's going on so far.
No, but you're exactly on the right page of like, okay, I think I see a story, a narrative emerging here. That
also,
it could be
like,
Vivian.
I feel like of anyone, like it would not be Fergus to be the one to call Beth an adulteress and carve an A into her body. Like I almost think that he's like immediately innocent unless maybe he's trying to like trick somebody or
ding ding.
Okay.
But yes, this was the exact direction that the story was going. It was like, well, okay, this A, I mean, if you find out you're being cheated on and etc. So
it's just so weird though. I mean, it just feels like with those like criminals who like can't stay away from their own crime scene, where it's like he could have never been like, hey, someone needs to go check on Beth. What's going on with Beth? What's going on with Beth? It's like you could have just not mentioned Beth, and like we might not have even gotten that far.
But maybe he wanted someone else to discover this
and then get someone else in trouble. Haha, I see.
Or at least have someone else be interviewed about because I feel like if he were to find, I mean, this is all outside of the realm of what actually happened. I just want to be clear, like in a hypothetical world, if he had found the body, that's one more like arrow pointing to him, like, oh, you were the last person to see her alive and you found the body, So maybe, I mean, this is just conjecture, but maybe that's why he suggested someone go over there. I have no clue.
Sure.
But yeah, so basically at this point, we're thinking Vivian's looking a little sus. So, Vivian's sister-in-law, Pamela, is driving home from work to check on Fergus when she sees the Land Cruiser. It's parked by the bridge that connects Phillip Island to the mainland. Pamela goes up to the car, finds it unlocked, the windows are down, and the key is in the ignition. Moreover, Vivian's black suede handbag is on the seat.
Oh, but it was not previously missing like the car was.
Ding, ding, ding.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It's almost as if someone went back home to grab her purse and then plant it in the missing car.
Frick. Or she just decided she needed her purse so badly and then like didn't.
Like, let's commit a crime and then race back home real quick because I need that
grab
bag.
my bag, but then leave it in the car.
Right.
So it didn't add up. So along with the handbag was a gold purse and 2 packs of cigarettes, as well as a lighter. The cigarettes were a brand Vivian was known to smoke. And there was another set of keys and a carving knife sitting beside a washcloth covered in blood.
Okay, that's a little too on the nose if you're trying to plant something.
On the nose, isn't it?
That's that's literally like a kit or something on every single stereotypical thing you need to make someone look guilty.
Exactly. And I was looking at the comments to see like what people were thinking and feeling on the video that I mentioned earlier, that YouTube video Liz Wakeford posted. And somebody had mentioned how ridiculously stereotypical all these pieces of evidence were. And she even mentioned that like in a documentary she watched, they even likened it to Murder, She Wrote, like the most like cliche, red herrings everywhere.
Yep.
And so, yeah, that's kind of, it's like check. There's a bloody rag, there's a knife, there's her handbag and her cigarettes. Pamela takes the purse and the keys, locks the car, goes home, and is probably like, what the fuck is going on? So later, when investigators heard Pamela's and Robin's stories, it would become confusing as to why, like you had mentioned, she would leave her black handbag behind at 3 a.m. when she had called and said, can you come take the kids? And her friend Robin had come over and the handbag was there. Mm-hmm. Then go back to the house and get it, but then abandon it again in the vehicle, unlocked.
Right.
So it just didn't add up. It almost feels like it's been planted there. Like, oh, let me get her purse and toss it in with her ID in it. And that'll be,
right.
Obvious.
At this point, just write a note that says, I did it from
Oops.
Vivian.
Right. Exactly. Love Vivian. Yeah. It just doesn't, it's a little on the nose. But I mean, sometimes criminals are that obvious. I don't know. But now we have a woman who's dead and a woman who is missing. Investigators immediately suspect suicide, and so they check the water surrounding the bridge, thinking, well, maybe she jumped off the bridge, and that's why the car was parked right next to the bridge. She was overcome by what she had done, and she decided to jump off the bridge and end her life. Well, they find no sign of Vivian in the water, and witnesses who passed by the parked vehicle placed it by the bridge as early as 3 p.m. Another witness even claimed he saw it there at 5 a.m. And said it was unusual enough that he remembered a Land Cruiser being there at 5 in the morning. So for a while, it had been there at least since that morning. So that would have been only 2 hours after Vivian called Robin and John and pretended to go to the hospital. And then in that time, she would have had to go back and get her purse also.
Right.
Very strange. So if she didn't go to the hospital, where the hell was she for those 2 hours? This is also where it kind of pins the crime on Vivian. It's like, well, she had the time to do it. And incidentally, one of Beth's neighbors reported being woken up by the sound of a Land Cruiser driving by at 3:20 in the morning.
Oh, good ears to be able to tell the exact sound of a car.
Well, a Land Cruiser, I guess, is like a specific... I looked it up. Yeah, you're right. The picture of their Land Cruiser looked so specific, but I think that was just what it looked like in 1986.
I feel like if I got woken up by a car at 3 a.m, I wouldn't know what type of car it was, but I would know what type of driver that person was.
Yeah, you're right.
Feel like,
yeah.
An asshole at 4 in the morning.
Oh, someone with a huge penis. Got it. Yeah, okay, got it. Yeah, so I guess they had heard this Land Cruiser. I don't know if they had seen the Land Cruiser, if they just claimed they heard it. But another neighbor also said she witnessed a vehicle arriving at Beth's earlier in the evening, but that was before Fergus had even allegedly shown up to check on Beth. So the reason that this is mentioned is because it's very unusual, I guess, for cars to be in this area when they don't live there. So I guess the neighbors did notice like unusual activity the hours before she was killed. One witness on the road even saw a motorcycle at 5:30 in the morning driving through town, and that was very odd. And the person on it was wearing an oilskin raincoat, and the headlights were off so that the driver would remain like undetected. And the motorcycle was a type often used in agricultural work, which another witness corroborated and said the motorcycle actually matched the one that usually sat on the back of the Land Cruiser. So they had a motorcycle that actually, because at first I was like, okay, a motorcycle. But I guess there was one really similar that often was attached to the Land Cruiser. So perhaps that has something to do with it. More strange testimonies cropped up. Nothing seemed to add up. Now, this is one that gives me goose cam that I wonder what you think. So Glenda, who is one of Vivian's friends, saw the case on the news and immediately called police because she told investigators that at 10 a.m. on September 23rd, and this is when Vivian was effectively already missing. This is like the morning where everyone's trying to figure out where everybody is, and Fergus is saying, go check on Beth, and we don't know where Vivian is. Anyway, that morning, 10 a.m., Vivian called Glenda out of the blue and just started chit-chatting. And they talked about sewing patterns, like nothing.
Like almost nothing. Intentionally and just like intentionally vague. So it would seem as if like nothing's assuming
all
of like
normal. Yeah. Very, very strange. And like there's more about this that's strange because Glenda could hear other voices in the background. And she heard Vivian shush them and said, oh, are the boys home? But she like wouldn't answer that question.
Ew.
And so it is odd because we know that the boys were not with her because the one boy was at school and the other boy was with Donald. So, like, we don't know who was in the background of that phone call.
Weird.
Right? And so, yeah, I guess she'd asked, oh, are the boys home from school or something? And she didn't really answer. And, of course, police were immediately like, oh, you must have the wrong day. But Glenda's friend who was visiting for vacation was like, no, I was here and I heard that phone call happen at 10 a.m.
Wow.
So multiple people are corroborating like, nope, Vivian called to talk about sewing. Just chit chat, 10 a.m. As her Land Cruiser's by the bridge and everyone's out hunting, you know. I mean, just very, very weird.
So it almost makes me wonder, like, if it were Vivian, did she have accomplices that she like...
Yeah, like, what's this...
But then, like, why would accomplices then put all of this, like, obviously guilty, all these tools into her car?
To, like, point at her.
Maybe it was her parents because she was supposed to be with them? Didn't she say, I'm going to go be with my parents on the mainland? Like, maybe she was saying friends on the way to people in the mainland?
Oh, in the background, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe, because that would be somebody who wouldn't necessarily give her up if it were like family members.
And it would be people she wouldn't want to include in any trial, like if she just like popped by to see people or tried to lay low or
right.
But also like lay low from what? Because as far as she's concerned, she just like left a guy very calm-headed and
right. For the reason to be laying low, it would have to be she committed the crime or at least knew something about the crime. This is why it gets so convoluted. This phone call throws me off because the woman is just so genuinely sincere. Like, no, I know what time she called me and my friend was here and witnessed the call. And
it's especially weird because I feel like something like sewing patterns, if Vivian did something, imagine the mindset you have to get yourself into to be like, okay, I'm paranoid and petrified and just so guilt-ridden with everything I've just done, but now I have to act like everything's fine so I have an alibi.
Yeah, so I gotta call Glenda.
And also people, like, I can't do it in a room away from everybody else, though. I can't tell them to go away for a second.
Yeah.
But then if it's not her, then maybe she really did just call about sewing patterns and, like, was just trying to, like, keep someone's privacy about where she was. I don't know.
It's so weird because I will add, nobody ever saw Vivian again.
It was almost, I feel like she like almost paid like 2 random mob people to get her gone. Maybe, honestly, maybe she was just like, I mean, how many times is there that stereotypical dad when you guys divorce and like the dad just takes off and never sees the kids again? Maybe, you know, you can flip it and reverse it. And maybe she was like, all right, you keep the kids. I'm going to go here. Don't call me.
Mm-hmm.
And then just disappears and just like, I don't want to be a part of that family anymore. And it just conveniently lined up with him.
I just feel like it's
killing somebody?
No, I totally get that narrative. And I think that's definitely one of the theories. I just have such a hard time believing like you could stay gone from your kids and your like for so long.
Well, you would at least think if you planned on leaving your family, even though like with nothing else going on, you just planned on like, oh, he's cheating on me, I'm just going to leave the family and like just start over. You would think the second you find out that there's this massive crime, you would consider coming back to be like, by the way, it was not me.
Well, especially because like they're immediately being like, oh, she did this. Like, I mean, the immediate theory is Vivian committed this crime. So it's sort of like they're like, on the hunt for her.
But it's so easy to, I mean, maybe she did do it, but it's also so easy to say that she did it if she's the one that just randomly went missing.
Right, exactly. And like, so we don't have the other side of the story. Like, we don't have the other side of the story. So it is like so on the nose that some people are like, well, duh, it's just right in front of us. But then some people are like, well, it's a little too easy.
Yeah. And part of me even thinks like, oh, like maybe she really was like in a room with people who she was like paying to like help her get out of town. But like, then why would you call for something so minor, like sewing patterns when like,
I wonder if that was just the planting of everything's normal. And maybe she said something that Glenda was supposed to remember and say like, oh, she was, I don't know.
What? This
like maybe it's part of an alibi. It's so weird. And like, I believe Glenda because I mean, the police basically said, oh, well, that's just extraneous information. You must have the wrong date. And it's like, well, I don't know. She did call her other friend at 3 a.m. and blatantly lied about the hospital. So like, it wouldn't be the first time she's randomly calling people and making up stories. I don't know. Anyway, so Glenda insisted, I know what date it was. It was the 23rd. It was 10 in the morning, and my friend was here to witness it. And she also said, I don't think Vivian could have killed Beth and then called immediately to chat about sewing patterns. Like, I just don't see that happening.
Yeah.
And then the investigator told her, well, people can just snap, which, by the way, is a common misconception and is not really exactly true. So
why don't you go ask your like Discovery Plus channel as you watch the show Snapped?
yeah, which by the way makes it clear that people don't just snap, they have a build up to the snapping. Like, it's not like, oh, there was no tension whatsoever and then she just snapped. It's like, no, there's always like a build up to the snap.
Yeah. No, there is. There's always a build up to the snap. Or maybe there's not. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
Okay, whatever. You shut up. You go eat your cabbage. All right. So, anyway, a friend said that the night before her disappearance, Vivian confided in her that she wanted to leave the island with her sons. So another friend is like, I talked to her the night before she disappeared, and she said she wanted to leave Fergus and take the kids with her to the mainland.
Okay.
So that conflicts with Fergus's claim that she was like, oh, you're so good with the kids. See ya. You know?
Okay. Yeah. No, I get that.
So with no real leads, investigators start digging into the forensic evidence from the scenes. They couldn't lift any fingerprints off Beth's body, the knife in her bathroom, or her house. Another weird thing is that I learned this from the YouTube video as well, that on Beth's body, there were like swirls as if somebody had wiped their hands on the body. Like had
swirls.
Wiped,
what?
Like streaks, almost like they had wiped their own hands off on Beth's body after getting
So
blood
it feels
on them.
like a messy crime.
It's almost just like an I don't know. It doesn't really mean anything except that it's just kind of sick to me. Like, oh, now let me wipe my hands off on your dead body. I don't know. Something about it just stuck with me.
It feels like no care for the body.
Yeah, it feels very dismissive and gross to me. Investigators found blood on Beth's towels, in the Land Cruiser, in Beth's bathroom, and on the knives in Beth's house and in Vivian's car.
Okay.
So DNA evidence wasn't really used, like I had mentioned earlier, for another year or two, but they did know blood typing. So they did know that Beth and Fergus both had type O blood, and Vivian had type A blood.
Okay.
So they found type A blood, aka they found Vivian's blood in Beth's house and in the Land Cruiser. They found type O blood in the Cameron's house, potentially from the injury with the wine glass.
I was gonna say, and like, but also, could she have cut herself in the injury, and like now he has her blood?
But so they also found Vivian's blood in the house, right? So it could have been from that.
I don't know.
But so they found both Vivian's and Fergus's blood in their house. They also found only Vivian's blood and presumably Beth's blood in Beth's house.
Got it.
Now, one weird thing is that the blood was almost separate. Like, they found Vivian's blood in the bathroom, but they found Beth's blood on her. It was like they didn't mingle.
That feels like someone collected.
Yes,
her blood
it feels
separately.
planted.
Yeah, I feel like
And this goes back to smearing your hands on that. Like, you'd think that you would have had some commingling of your blood if you were wiping your bloody hands on the body. I mean,
yeah, I don't think it was her.
And like, if they only had blood typing and they only found type O blood on Beth, well, I mean, guess who else was type O? I'm just saying.
Yeah,
like, a lot of people,
I'm with you.
But also
I'm with you.
So I don't know. I don't know. It's just odd, and it's again just all circumstantial. But there's more odd stuff because neither the knife in Beth's bathroom, which they found, or the knife in Vivian's car, neither one matched the wounds on Beth. They were not the murder weapons. Yes, allegedly, according to me only, and not anybody else. And don't sue me, but yes.
But it feels planted. It certainly feels, if I have a sense about it, the sense is that it's planted.
Something feels fishy about this whole thing because, like, oh, there's knives with blood on them, but they don't match the wounds. They're not the murder weapons. What are you talking about? That doesn't even make sense.
Wow. Huh.
And so the only way people have been able to explain that is like, well, maybe it was planted or maybe they made a mistake, like, in assessing the wounds. So, we don't know. But finally, this is the last kind of bit, is that investigators found cigarette butts in the kitchen ashtray and in the bathroom where the killer washed their hands after the attack. And the ones in the kitchen were the same brand that Vivian smoked, but the ones in the bathroom were a different brand. And I also want to point out, Beth didn't smoke. So somebody had come over, killed her, and smoked a cigarette. Whether it was because they wanted to calm down or whether it was because they bought the type Vivian liked and thought, oh, I'll leave Vivian's cigarette here to make it look like it was Vivian.
It all I feel like you just continue to list things that are planted.
It sounds like it, doesn't it? Oh, the exact cigarette brand she used was there, having just been smoked after the murder.
Maybe I'm wrong. But it feels like it was planted.
It does, or it feels like she didn't give a fuck and was like, oh, which is also possible. Like, maybe she was like, I already did this terrible thing. I'm not going to try to hide it. And if she did die by suicide, like, maybe she just knew that it didn't matter whether she left her cigarette butts.
Maybe it's a mix of both of them, where maybe she just didn't give a fuck. And then she was already, like, on her way out and had, like, whoever she was talking to, maybe they were helping her get out of Dodge, So...
yeah.
Maybe she's like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm just letting everyone know, I killed her. Yeah, and also you'll never find me.
Great point. Maybe it wasn't like I'm going to hide it. Maybe it was just like, yep, it was me. That's a great point, Em. I did not even put that together.
Yeah.
So they find these cigarettes. There was still obviously all this circumstantial evidence, but no real answers. So police looked at other possible suspects. There was actually this creepy secret admirer who often drove to her house, like, day and night. And he would just sit outside her house in his car. And
sorry, I was putting the gargoyles down, but there's a man that's...
You got to get a new gargoyle, but this one has to be like extra creepy because there's this dude who it was like a secret admirer of Beth's, and he would just like drive to her house day or night and sit outside her house. So, of course, police had to look into him because he's basically... for all intents and purposes, sounds like a stalker to me.
Yeah, this could be the guy who was like watching everything happen and knew what she was about.
Oh, that's interesting. What if he knows the whole story?
Yeah.
Well, apparently he was known to leave flowers, like expensive flowers, on her porch every couple days. He would mow her lawn for her without her asking. And Beth's friends would joke about this, like it was no big deal, and would sometimes even take some of the flowers. But they did ask Beth to be safe, and she promised to always lock her doors and keep one of the farm dogs in the house with her at night. So they did kind of sense that there was not full safety with this guy. Apparently one day Beth got fed up with this guy and even confronted him while he was mowing her lawn and was like, get off of my property, like leave me alone. And apparently he got pissed off and he left, and then he came back a few days later just to scream at her about how angry he was that she had like rejected him. So
well, that sounds like a big lead.
Exactly. But they interviewed him, they cleared him, they said it couldn't have been him. We don't know many more details. And he did seem heartbroken upon hearing of her death. He actually posted an obituary notice in a Melbourne paper, which read, Beth, you held a very special place in my heart. I will always hold our special friendship close. You made me feel complete.
Yikes.
Like, I wish the newspaper had just somehow known not to print that. But
I wish I saw that and went, no thanks.
No,
we'll give you your money back.
The vibes are off with this one, There was another guy who posted in the newspaper about her too, who was apparently also lovesick with Beth. So
maybe she was just sleeping with a bunch of people and like.
Well, apparently she wasn't, and this was like a big thing because her friends were like, "No, Fergus was her first sexual relationship. Like,
oh right,
her first serious relationship. She did not, sleep with other people. Like, they were pretty adamant, and the fact that they knew all the steamy details of her life." They were like, no, she wasn't sleeping with anyone else. So, it complicates matters with the semen that they found on her too. Because it's like, well, maybe somebody else did come by that night and maybe Fergus found out, or maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
But somebody's not telling the whole truth. So this guy, it was a male coworker at Penguin Parade, and they were also good friends. His name was Michael, and Beth actually told Michael, like, I don't want to go out with you because I'm actually seeing Fergus. She's like, I'm having an affair with him. Like, she fully confided this information in him, just to tell him, like, I'm sorry, I'm not interested in a relationship. I'm already in a relationship, and guess what? It's with this Fergus guy who's married.
Boy.
So Michael knew about the affair, but Michael didn't even think she was having sex with Fergus because Beth had once told him she was absolutely against sex before marriage. So even to Michael, who was like interested in her, he was like, I didn't even think she was sleeping with the guy that she was seeing.
So she just had a bunch of gentleman callers.
Yes, exactly. That's the vibe I get. He actually posted his own death notice in the paper to honor Beth, which said, my life has been enriched with your love and kindness, which you shared with everyone. And this is a little strange. Michael said he found out about Beth's relationship with Fergus a month before she died. But Beth's friend Marie, who like knows everything about Beth, was like, nope, she told Michael 4 days before she died. So it just seems like a weird thing to lie about.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Just odd. So some suspected maybe Michael killed Beth in a fit of jealousy, but that's just rumor. There's really no evidence to support that. There are just thousands of questions that still haunt her family, both families and investigators surrounding the case. There's still no answers. As it stands, no one has ever been charged with Beth's murder, and Vivian remains missing. She has never been seen again. There was a book released in 2012 on the topic, which reported that there was still a warrant out for Vivian's arrest if she is found. And meanwhile, Fergus still lives on Phillip Island. As of 2016, he serves on the Destination Phillip Island Development Committee as deputy chair. He is still very involved in the island. I believe he is remarried or at least started seeing someone new. And his family sold the Grand Prix racetrack for $20 million in, I think, 2004.
Wow.
Which, if Vivian were still in the picture, she would have received, I think, 1/6 of that payout, which is another interesting thing to note that, she hasn't stepped forward for that money either.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the story. I know that was so long. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
There's just so many moving parts. So that's the story. Morning Glory.
It's, well, thanks for the word hummingbird, but it's, man, I really do love when you do mysteries, but I also really hate when you do mysteries because I just feel like I got all this build up with no final moment.
And that's why I like telling them to you, because it's like, now finally I can share my frustration with someone else. Because otherwise I just sit here pulling my hair out, like watching these documentaries.
I mean, part of me thinks it wasn't Vivian, but part of me thinks maybe it was Vivian. But
one interesting...
How would I know?
I know. It's like impossible to know. And this is what I was going to add. So some of the things worth noting that I took notes on and didn't know where to insert into my document, or didn't know if I had space, and now I'm deciding, even though I don't have space, I'm going to say them anyway.
Sure.
So he admitted to somebody, I don't know if it was investigators or friends, Fergus admitted that he felt like he was cheating on Beth whenever he slept with his wife, Vivian. Like, that's how in love with Beth he was. And it wasn't just a, fling for him. He was apparently like deeply invested in Beth. And so that just maybe adds a tinge of context for anybody who's on the fence or doesn't know. So the fact that he felt closer to Beth than he did his own wife, especially like speaking intimately, and then at the hospital they were like, no, they were very close and intimate, just kind of odd. The other thing that I mentioned was none of Vivian's blood was found on or around Beth's body, so that was also odd, especially like if they had wiped their hands all over the body.
Right.
And the bridge, that was the other thing, because they had suspected that she had died by suicide. But this bridge, apparently, there has never been a suicide off of this bridge. And people usually just jump off it as a dare. Like, kids dare each other to jump off it. It's not a very high bridge. And apparently it was also high tide when Vivian allegedly jumped. So it doesn't really make sense, and she would not have died by suicide, most likely. And also, somebody went by and checked, and there was no salt disturbance on the railing. There was like a crust of salt at that point in time, and none of that had been disturbed, as if somebody had climbed over the railing. So it was like just kind of one clean layer. So that was another thing that didn't really match up with police's reporting. And then finally, the last thing I want to mention was somebody named Kara's Closet commented on the video that Liz Wakeford posted and said an interesting theory, which I just want to throw out there. And this is just speculation, but this is what this commenter said. Idea: Vivian killed Beth, then told Fergus about it in a jealous, angry rage. Ferg then killed her because of this, Vivian, and then sent his family to discover Beth's body because he knew it was there and didn't want to do it himself.
See, that's a theory.
That interesting? Because then I was like, oh, well, that would be another explanation why you would send someone, because she's dead, but you don't want to be the one to find it. So that's an interesting, angle on this. Potentially planted the car near the river to make it look like his wife had died by suicide, or planted the car by the bridge to make it look like she had fled to the mainland. But this whole thing, I mean, Kara's Closet, this commenter even posted, the whole Cameron family is sketchy as hell. So I don't know. That's another, just random theory, but I thought that was an interesting angle of like, maybe he found out his wife did it.
Wow.
And then, killed her in a jealous rage or an angry rage. Who knows? It's all conjecture, and
talk about your classic headache.
What a headache.
A real humdinger, as I always say.
As only Em would say, and no one else. And somebody's grandpa, maybe.
Well, good storytelling.
What a doozy.
I can't believe I'm going to see you so soon.
I can't believe I'm going to see you in less than 48 hours. Yay! No, you said it first.
I know. I just realized why I was saying you. It wasn't just to hang out.
That. Just to hang out.
Okay, well, I can't wait to see you just to hang out. If you want to see us hang out more, you can slide on over to our after chats if you are a member of Patreon. And I don't know what we're going to talk about today, but I'm sure it'll be very silly, very unnecessary.
Hopefully it's just more about snakes. I'm not really sure.
All right. And
that's
why
we
drink.